The man screams that this psychopath will never spare their lives and also thinks about how much effort he put in to provide him with the necessary money, and it was all in vain. He understands he needs to run, but first he needs to get rid of the excess baggage. Meanwhile, the girl sits next to her suitcase packing her things. She understands that this man is going to answer. She was against this whole idea from the very beginning. After all, supplying weapons to a battle that's already been lost is incredibly stupid. And now they're running away in the middle of the night, and the girl thinks how pathetic it is. At that very moment, a man comes into her room and addresses Ignat. Afterwards, he tells her to drink some wine because they have a long journey ahead of them. The girl looking at him understands that this is all a blatant lie, and why should she even believe it? The man didn't care about her for 7 years of marriage, but the real tragedy is not that he lies to her, and the fact is that she has no other choice but to obey him, after which the girl drinks wine and begins to cough. The man just says what a fool she is, and the girl wonders if he really poisoned her. Her husband says that she is now useless and asks why he should take her with him. Although since she helped his business grow, he will grieve for her a little, after which the young lady collapses on the floor. She realizes that she never had the power to make her own decisions, but the girl still doesn't want to plunge into eternal sleep like this. However, if it does have to be done, then I still want to see the face of one person for the last time. At the same moment, someone asks the man if he is the head of the Bar and Trade Association, after which the man starts swinging his sword and the young lady realizes that he is there. This is a guy named Heinz Ascalon, the one who won the war and also the new king of the Baron Empire. The girl understands that this is her great duke and the one she has dreamed about all her life. Now he came for her, so the girl thinks how much she missed him, but still how sad it is that she finally met him. But she didn't even have the strength to properly examine the face she still hadn't seen. The guy then tells her he's late and she realizes that's how it is, and then silently asks why it took him so long. If he'd arrived a little sooner, everything could have turned out differently. The guy didn't take part in the conquest of the Black Forest, and she wonders what would have happened differently. 8 years ago, the main character's father insisted her wedding would never happen. The girl then asked her father if something had happened, to which he replied that the Grand Duke had been sent to Vanguard to conquer the Black Forest and would be unable to attend the wedding. He intended to appoint someone authorized to take his place. So they will do the same. The Duke will come for her as soon as the campaign is over, and until then she will remain there. After the man leaves, the maid asks the mistress if she is okay, because she knows how long Ignat has been waiting for this wedding. The main character replies that she is fine, and the maid then asks how the bride, who will not be able to attend her own wedding, can be fine. The girl understands that as a maid she said she had been waiting for her wedding since she and the Duke were children. For as long as the girl could remember, she had always been alone. Her own family shunned her, and as a child she couldn't bear to resent her parents or beg them for love, so the girl did everything possible to meet their expectations, in the hope that one day they would love her, and time passed, and all that she received from them in return. It's cold and unrealistic expectations. The girl realizes that perhaps this is precisely why she's so obsessed with the idea of becoming the perfect Grand Duchess. If she were a flawless Duchess, she'd be able to manage the household perfectly and care for the people. Then she would be loved. Heinz Ascalon wasn't just her future husband. He was her last hope and her only way out. So waiting for him to leave the camp, especially in comparison to how long she had already waited, was nothing. A little while later, the girl was sitting in her office reading a book, but at that very moment the maid burst in, and she cried out to the lady that the master wanted to see her and said it was urgent. The young lady asked what her father had said, to which Lena replied that she thought the news was good and that she had also eavesdropped a little on the conversation. The Grand Duke's name was mentioned, so perhaps the Duke would finally come for his mistress. The main character thanked her maid, and walking down the corridor, she realized that her husband had finally arrived, and that the dream she had been waiting for her whole life to come true would finally come true. When the girl ran to her father's office, she knocked. The man told her to come in, The young lady then did so and asked her father if he had invited her. The man replied that he had, and her divorce from the Duke was finally finalized. So he'll start looking for her next husband. The young lady, then shocked, asked if he'd mentioned the divorce. And what does he mean by this? Because it's so sudden and she doesn't understand anything. The young lady also asked if the Duke had said that he no longer wanted to marry her. But the man claimed that they had no other choice, because His Highness had stopped sending her financial assistance. The girl, shocked, asked if he was talking about financial benefits and whether he had really been taking money from the Grand Duke all this time. Her father cried out that of course she was already a married woman and he was no longer responsible for her financially. After which, he also said that the discussion was over, so let the girl return to her room and he would call her when she finishes with the details of her next marriage. The girl understood that disobeying her father was unthinkable for her because she had dedicated her life to becoming an impeccable Grand Duchess and never asked for anything else. Well, in the end, it all came down to money. The main character had no leverage, let alone power, and she couldn't stand up for herself. All that was left for Hay to do was to get married again, and on the eve of her third wedding, when the girl was walking down the corridor, she heard the maid addressing the master. She also begged him to reconsider Ignette's marriage to this man, for was she not his dear daughter? That's why the maid asked to postpone the wedding just this once. But the man only got angry and said how ridiculous the girl was, after which he screamed, "How dare a servant interfere in the affairs of his masters," and hit the girl. When the main character entered the room, she saw that the maid was lying unconscious on the floor. The young lady then approached the maid and asked her to wake up, and the man said how inopportune this was. But he still insisted that this would serve as a lesson for his daughter, and that if she or anyone in her circle dared to go against his will, the same fate would await them. The young lady understood that she had learned his lesson and lived obediently. But in the end, all that awaited her was a miserable plunge into eternal sleep at the hands of her third husband. The girl understands that he will not get rid of her even if she plunges into eternal sleep, because the mere thought of how she was used all these years makes her furious, so she cannot plunge into eternal sleep like that. And yet she is glad that the Duke was there and held her hand as she sank into eternal sleep. A little while later, the girl opens her eyes and jumps out of bed in shock. Looking in the mirror, she wonders if this is a dream or the afterlife. But when she looks around, she realizes that this is her room. She also looks younger, but she's unsure exactly how old. The young lady understands that her third wedding hasn't happened yet, but then she thinks she's alive after all and has somehow returned to the past. This makes the girl burst into tears, and she realizes she no longer wants to live such a miserable life. At that moment, someone addresses their mistress and claims she's entering. It turns out to be a maid, and she wishes the mistress good morning. The young lady only remembers how the maid lay unconscious in a pool of red liquid, and now she immediately jumps into her arms and also understands that she begged them to save her. Ignette also asks if this is really true. Lena. After which the maid is surprised, and the main character now understands and knows why she returned to the past. After all, she was given a chance to correct her mistakes, and she will never forgive all those who ruined their lives. The maid turns to her mistress and claims her eyes are swollen, and she should be upset that she won't be able to attend her own wedding. But she shouldn't cry. The main character asks if she is talking about a second or third wedding, after which the maid cries out, "What is this, mistress?" Of course she's talking about the former. The young lady understands what today means, her wedding day with Grand Duke Heinz Ascalon. A little while later, the girl goes to her father's office, and when she comes in, the man asks what happened. The young lady realizes that he hasn't even looked up, but she still tells her father that she would like to discuss the wedding. After all, she believes that at least she should participate. The man says that, as he already said, the Duke will send an authorized representative, and he sincerely hopes that the young lady has a good reason to raise this issue again. Ignette tells the father to listen and claims that His Highness is unable to attend the ceremony because he was sent to war, and if for any reason the Grand Duke will contact the king about this. This would put him in an awkward position, especially if they didn't do anything themselves. So just to be on the safe side, at least she should be the only one to participate in the ceremony. The man then says that the girl's point of view is clear to him, so he allows it. The young lady thanks her father and then leaves. But after closing the doors to his office, he realized that there was something she had turned a blind eye to in her past life. And the main thing was that she could accept it now. Her love for her family has always been unrequited, and now the girl is taking her first steps. She will no longer expect love, affection, or warmth from them. After all, she must leave her family behind and walk away without looking back, because that's the only way she can survive. A short time later, the young lady is already heading in a carriage to her wedding. The woman sitting in front of her asks why she is so eager, since there is nothing special about weddings. Ignette. She replies that if her mother hadn't gone with her, she would have been left completely alone. But the woman says that her father and Rosalie have plenty to worry about. So let the girl just not say she feels sorry for herself, because the wedding ceremony is just a formality. Ignette. She understands that she already knows how her parents treat her, but she still can't stop feeling sorry for herself. The girl also thinks about why the pain doesn't go away and understands that she needs to pull herself together and concentrate. After all, now she has to think about only one thing. She is getting married to her first husband again. This is Grand Duke Heinz of Ascalon, the only man for her. When the girl steps out of the carriage, the Holy Father greets her. By any chance knows where His Highness's authorized representative is. The maid looking to the side tells the mistress that this is the most handsome man she has ever seen in her life. It's as if he'd descended from heaven. This guy claims the girl arrived just in time, but the young lady wonders if this is an authorized person, to which the Holy Father replies that he very much hopes so. After all, he has the seal of the Principality of Ninor, after which the young lady notices this guy rising on herself and wonders what the hell was going on. The brunette approaches the young lady and says he's glad to meet her. The girl replies that the feeling is mutual but understands that she might be overthinking it. The young lady's mother is staring at this guy at this time and then asks if he is really the Grand Duke's confidant. The young lady is a little surprised, and the woman states that there is something she would like to say to the Duke and asks if she can say it to him instead of the Duke. The guy replies that of course, after which the woman says that the ransom they send is at the very least ridiculous. So how can she marry off her daughter for such a worthless sum? Ignette is shocked, wondering how a woman could say such a thing, but the guy just smiles and says they must be deeply disappointed. And he wonders if 10,000 gold coins are really such a small amount for them. The woman then wonders if he's really talking about 10,000, but she was told that they only sent 3. And the young lady's mother wonders if her husband really appropriated the rest. At this time, the blonde turns to her mother and asks her to stop this inappropriate conversation. After all, there are a lot of eyes there, and they can ruin their image as well as His Highness's. And the father will be furious if he finds out about this, and they don't want to tarnish the name of their family. The young lady's mother then says that she is not feeling well and will come and sit down. Fulfilled her duty by arriving there, so she hoped the girl wouldn't later say she wasn't there. After that, she also believed she could handle the rest on her own. The young lady realizes that she wants to fall into the ground with all her heart and wonders how many people saw this disgrace. But now she is even ashamed to look this guy in the eyes, after which Ignette says goodbye for such behavior. Well, she claims that this is all because her mother is sad to give her eldest daughter in marriage. The guy replies that it is clear to him and asks if she says that her mother is sad. At this time, the Holy Father asks whether it is worth continuing the ceremony, after which he orders Lady Herky and His Highness to follow him. A little while later, they approach the room and the Holy Father asks them to wait there. He will return for them when the ceremony officially begins, after which the man leaves. When the two are alone, they both start talking at once. The brunette then, with a smile on his face, tells the lady to continue, and the girl thanks him and also states that she would like to ask him for a favor. She hands over the letter and asks if the guy could deliver it to His Highness. The brunette asks what kind of document this is, after which the girl smiles and asserts that not everything in the envelope is a document, since the brunette must be used to his administrative duties. This envelope contains only a letter, but it is very important, so the girl hopes that he will be able to deliver this letter personally. And the young lady also asks if he could pass on some more. There's something she hopes he can send a response to directly. She shouldn't send a letter to the estate because she'd prefer their communication with him to remain a secret from her family. The guy then asks if he can inquire why, after which the young lady asks her forgive, but is afraid that this is all she can tell him. The brunette replies that he understands and that if His Highness responds, he will deliver his letter to her personally. The blonde replies that she is confident he will respond. And the Duke's deputy says the lady seems convinced of this. The blonde replies that of course she is, and he thinks that His Highness was the only one who was there and held her hand when she breathed her last. After which the lady with a smile on her face says that he is now her husband. The brunette claims that he will deliver this letter to His Highness, and the young lady thinks that this is excellent because she may not be able to see him, but at least they have the opportunity to communicate. The young lady then thanks the guy and asks what he wanted to say. But at that very moment, someone outside the door announces that the high priest has arrived for the ceremony and asks to be allowed to lead them into the hall. The brunette says that he is afraid now that they have more important things to do, after which he suggests going. The young lady, heading towards the exit of the room, understands that from today, she is once again the wife of the Grand Duke Heinz Ascalon, a dream she once gave up without even trying to fight. This time it might come true, so she grabs onto it with all her might. The girl realizes that Emperor Baron had two sons. The elder was kind but very weak. The younger son was narcissistic and greedy. The emperor loved them both, and after much deliberation divided the kingdom in two. The elder son received the larger and warmer part of the kingdom. The younger son in turn received the smaller part, whose lands were barren and desolate. The youngest son became angry and poisoned his own father and forged his will. The elder brother was forced to live in the lifeless lands of Nainor, and this land was reduced to the status of vassalage of their lands. The conquest of the Black Forest was also the result of the king's tyranny. A short time later, the Duke teleports back to the estate. Someone informs him that further distance requires many more mana stones. And to perform magic, you need an extremely skilled wizard, so it's amazing that the guy can teleport such a large distance at once. The brunette then says that he is still very exhausted now, after which this voice claims that the girl is now his wife, and he wonders why he can't penetrate her mind. But the Duke asks who should know if not him. The sword replies that he has never yet met anyone whose mind he cannot penetrate. The Duke replies that except him, after which the sword says that he has a special connection with mana stones, and he is not an ordinary person. The Duke says it's to their advantage, otherwise he wouldn't even exist. The mechs respond that it's only if they present it that way. Well, maybe this girl isn't so simple either, but the man claims she didn't look like she had any special powers, not to mention that he now knows what the Duchess wants from him. And this woman is eager to fleece the Duke blind even though she doesn't even think about her daughter. Well, compared to her, the girl who is his wife is not at all like her mother, neither in appearance nor in her manner of speech, nor in her behavior. That's why he's so suspicious, because he has no idea what thoughts are going on behind those eyes. After which, he takes out the letter and reads what is written there. The girl wrote that she couldn't express how happy she was to be able to write him a letter like this. Now, her name is Ignette. Ascalon is his legal wife, just as he is her legal husband, so the girl hopes he won't bother her. With this in mind, she wants to make a request of him. Soon her father will ask him to pay for her some kind of allowance that he will agree to send. But instead of paying her father, the girl asks him to send this allowance to her personally. This is her first request, and if the Duke agrees to her to fulfill this, she guarantees him her eternal devotion. The girl also wrote that she would look forward to when they meet again, and if her father sends the Duke a request for a divorce, she asks him to tear it into small pieces, and the brunette reading this letter says that it is quite curious, and he also relied for too long on the sword's ability to read other people's thoughts. So now he has to read her emotions himself and listen to what she says. Sword asks if all ordinary people live like this, and he begins to feel like it's all his fault. At that moment, someone else enters the room and says that the boss returned earlier than he expected. The brunette replies yes and asks if he missed anything and if there's any news about his father. The blue-haired boy replies that they received a warning, but no one answered. The Duke says it's a good job and his father should know that he personally attended the ceremony. To which the servant replies to the boss that it's natural since he knows how his father feels about matters concerning the kingdom. He was furious to learn that the Duke was being sent to the front. It's nothing more than a political marriage, but his wife's family is demanding a share of the money allocated for the campaign. And now he understands why he didn't want to attend his own wedding. The Duke replies that the wedding would have taken place regardless of his presence. The guy with blue hair answers that this is correct and that he will leave the bus at this point, after which he leaves and wishes him good night. But the Duke tells Kane to wait because he needs him to find out everything he can about Herky's family and his newly minted Grand Duchess. A little while later, the main character heads to the carriage, and one of the knights claims that he was informed that she intends to visit the shopping district. The girl understands that apparently this is Lena's doing because she is worried about her. At this time, the knight asks to be allowed to accompany Her Highness, and the girl understands that this is the same person, that he accompanied her on her wedding day, and his name was apparently Sir Grick. He worked for Sir Galbert even when she was a child, and the girl thinks that let him do this at the request of the maid, but she is still grateful to this guy for his help, after which she extends her hand and says that she will gladly accept his offer. At that very moment, someone runs up to the young lady and shouts her name. It turns out to be the girl's sister, and Ignat asks if everything is okay. The lady with red hair wonders if sister could go to meet her patrons for her, since she has urgent matters to attend to and simply cannot go there. The main character says that the girl needs to come there herself or let her report that she will not come herself. Rosalie says that, well, don't answer. All the patronesses will be there, and if she doesn't show up, she will tarnish her reputation. Her sister is going somewhere anyway, so why doesn't she just drop in on the way? The red-haired lady hugs her sister and asks her to pop in there for a second and also write her name in the attendance book because they are sisters and should always help each other. After which the main character's sister with a smile on her face says it's time for her to go. She also relies on her sister. Ignat tries to cry out to her sister, but she's already running away. After which the young lady sighs and wonders when Rosalie will grow up. The maid asks what her mistress plans to do and whether she will come to meet her. Ignat. She replies that no, and they go to Rivertown because she has some business there, and she needs to meet someone. The girl realizes that in her past life, she was forced to work for her husband's trade association. The business was as successful as it could be, but despite all her efforts, there was never even a small share left for her. Success has flown away like sand through one's fingers, but now everything will be different. The girl enters one of the stores, after which she approaches the miss and claims that she noticed that the store is up for sale. She's also interested in buying it. Ignat understands that this time she will achieve success on her own. A short time later, she signs a contract and receives ownership of the buildings. The woman claims that as they agreed, the store will be put in order next week, and then she will give her the key. The main character smiles and realizes that her name is there, after which she says that they will see each other next week. When the girl leaves the store, the maid whispers and asks if the lady is sure she wants to spend her savings on this. After all, even though she was offered a good discount, she had saved up for so many years. Ignat. She replies that everything is fine because if she hadn't spent the money, it would have been taken from her anyway. The girl thinks about how she got enough money to buy her store, and when she was younger, she visited a certain temple. During one of her visits, she had the opportunity to translate texts from the East, constantly offered work. By working gradually and persistently, over several years, she was able to save up some money. In a past life, her mother found her savings and took them from her. Now the young lady tells Lena to look on the street across from this store. Even though the building itself is old, it's located near busy streets. It's a great location that will attract the attention of passers-by. The blonde also asks what more could one want for a store, and that the building needs some renovations at least. After that, it will start attracting a crowd. Ignette understands that she has some information that she got from her past life. The maid tells Her Highness that she is not sure about this, but the main character assures her that everything will be fine. Afterwards, she heads to the karate shop and realizes there's still one more thing to do. Ignette turns to the knight and asks if he could take them to the Aran market. The girl realizes the truly important matter is about to begin. The knight claims that he must warn her that this is not the safest place, after which the girl says that it is good that she has him. She would also like to ask the knight for a favor when they get to the market. When they are already in the carriage, the maid screams at Her Highness that she should under no circumstances do this, because they can't leave her because it's too dangerous. The girl claims she needs to meet someone there and she needs to win him over to her side. However, he is extremely cautious, and if the two of them are near her, it is unlikely that the guy will approach her. The young lady realizes that Isaac Baikun is only a year younger than her and comes from a long, lost, noble family. Thanks to his exceptional talent, the young man has become the general manager of her husband's trade association, and he was the only person who treated her with complete sincerity. He stayed by her side even after work hours and told her stories that allowed her to escape the reality that was stifling her. The only clue she has about his whereabouts at the moment is the fact that when he was a child, he was an honest pickpocket on the streets of the arena market. So the plan is ridiculously simple. The girl will wander around the market alone, holding her handbag as bait in case someone tries to steal it. Then, with the help of the knight who watches her from the front, or the maid who watches her back, they will catch him. The main character doesn't know if she'll meet this guy today, because she's not even sure if she'll be able to talk to him, but there's no other way. A little while later, the girl realizes that this is the last street, and they caught a bunch of thieves, but none of them were Isaac. He thinks that maybe she didn't notice him, or that he realized that she wasn't alone and therefore didn't try. But if she doesn't find it today, she'll try again tomorrow. At that very moment, someone touches the young lady's purse, after which he snatches it and starts running away Agnette. She understands that she won't confuse this golden hair with anything else because it's Isaac. After which, the girl screams so that the maid does not let him escape, but the guy immediately pushes her away. The main character immediately runs up to her and asks if she is okay, after which the maid apologizes and tries to say something. But the knight grabs this boy, Ignette. He thinks how fast it was and whether he really caught up with him from the other end of the alley. The knight claims that he caught this thief. The guy only screams to be let go. The knight asks if the guy is really encroaching on the property of a defenseless woman, so let him at least have some pride, if he has no money. But the blonde screams that maybe he himself will try to starve, because he should just look at him. The young man also asks if he's talking about pride and character. He would have had all of that. He thought there was nothing more important in life, but when he lost absolutely everything, he despaired. And then life taught him a real lesson. If he were to fall into eternal sleep right then and there, what was the point? He knew that stealing wasn't exactly a noble deed, and that's why he lived such a miserable life. But he cries out that they have no right to condemn him if they themselves have never been afraid of plunging into eternal sleep from hunger. The main character understands that this may sound like an excuse, but she still turns to Isaac. The guy asks how she knows his name. The young lady understands that she's not doing this because she wants to exploit his abilities for her own gain. After all, When he told her his story, despite the fact that he had managed to escape his unhappy past, his voice was full of sadness and loneliness. One day, a guy was telling me that when he stole, all he could do was keep empty desires in his heart. The girl asked what they were, for example, to which he replied that if he were ever caught, they wouldn't take him by the hand to drag him off to prison. This became the main reason she began to like him. And now the young lady extends her hand and asks if he would like to work for her. Ignat wanted to offer her hand to young Isaac. To fulfill the empty wish he held dear in his heart, Isaac couldn't even imagine how happy he made her. At this point, the boy realized he couldn't stop thinking about it. He also recalls someone screaming that they were stealing from the unfortunate villagers to carry out their dirty deeds, and that they should take everything from the Bacons and execute them. The young man couldn't understand why his family had taken the blame and allowed themselves to be plunged into eternal sleep. And also, why did he, the weakest, manage to survive? The boy thought how he wished someone would extend a hand to him. It gave him the strength to rise and take revenge, no matter who it was. A little while later, the girl is in a carriage with this guy and says she's afraid there's no better place to talk. Ignat understands that he is still wary, but at least he looks calmer. But that's good because then they can talk. The young lady then asks if Isaac wants to go with her, which surprises the boy. And he asks how she found out, to which the girl replies that it doesn't matter now. But the truth is that he was the true heir to the Bacon family, not his brother, and that his family did not deserve everything that happened to them. And the only question that matters now is whether he wants revenge. The guy claims that he lost everything, his parents, his brother in one moment, so of course he wants revenge. The main character understands that this is exactly the answer she was expecting, because that's the kind of person he is. To take revenge, he infiltrated the ranks of the enemy association and patiently waited for the right moment. The girl says that for this he needs power, and the fact that he was once the heir of the Bacon family is not enough for her to trust him with the work. The young lady invites the guy to look out the window and asks if he sees that small shop, after which he invites him to prove himself and also to work to gain influence step by step. The young man, then with tears in his eyes, says that he will show the lady what he is capable of, and the main character strokes his head and also says that this is an excellent choice. So let him come back in 3 days and work hard, because then she will reward him according to his success. Ignat understands that she just wants him to be able to carry out his revenge and live as his heart desires. She believes the same applies to her. When the boy gets out of the carriage, the knight asks Her Highness if this is the man she was looking for. The girl replies that this is true, after which the knight asserts that he will not ask her how she found out about him. And of course he understands that this guy was once part of an influential family, but now he is just a petty thief. So he asks if the lady is sure of her choice. The girl asks the knights not to worry because the guy is young, but he has a clear goal and purpose. The blonde also claims that she has another request for them and says that they should forget about everything that they saw today. This whole question of life for this boy. The maid then nods and tells Her Highness to rely on her. The girl understands that she is confident in you as a maid, but she's not a knight yet. Working at a trade association has taught her to see the essence of people, say with confidence that he is not one of those who attaches importance, and also if she reminds him correctly. He was always there to help her if she fell and occasionally accompanied her to the temple library. Ignat is also wondering how she can win him over to her side. The girl then asks if Sir Girk is loyal to the house of Herky. The young man then thinks for a moment and tells Her Highness that he hasn't yet decided. The main character is a little surprised by this, after which she says that she was told that for a knight it is extremely important to whom exactly he is loyal to, which he replies that this is true. And the girl understands that it might take some time, but if she manages to win Sir Girk's trust, then perhaps he will choose her and not the house of Herky. After which the young lady asks if he will refuse her request to wait with the choice. The knight then tells Her Highness that of course, and she thanks him, But at that very moment, Ignet's stomach rumbles. The girl is a little embarrassed and says that they haven't eaten anything since the morning, after which she asks the maid if she will ask the coachman to take them to the nearest restaurant. A little while later, they are already sitting at the table and the maid asks, "Her Highness, what about the meeting Lady Rosalie spoke of?" The girl replies that she will not go to her, which is why the maid screams, "What is this, mistress?" But she says that there is no need to be so surprised, after which Lena claims that she was sure that the lady would go. The blonde understands that the maid is right, because before she was under the influence of her sister's sweet speeches, and it was difficult not to fulfill the requests of her naive younger sister. However, right now she has more important things to do and needs to focus on herself, so she can't let her family get in her way. Ignet says that Rosalie is already 17 years old, so she needs to learn to take responsibility for her own actions. And now, while the soup is still warm, someone interrupts the young lady and asks if it's really her. The main character realizes that this is Lady Lisa, after which the woman says that she was looking for the lady in the temple, but she was told that she got married, so she congratulates her. Ignet thanks Lady Lisa. The woman suggests that she should now address her as Grand Duchess Ignet. Well, the girl just wonders why the lady was looking for her, after which the woman says that she would like to ask the lady for a small favor. A little while later, the main character asks if she's talking about a translator, as she's never done one before. But the woman insists she has the necessary skills and talent, so all she needs is 3 hours of her time. The translator they hired will not be able to attend, and the entire guest from the East is an extremely important person, and they simply desperately need a new translator. The main character understands that Lady Lisa's husband was making a trade deal with the East, and since books were part of it, they often asked her to translate them. Ignet understands that she can't refuse her because it was only thanks to this woman that she managed to save money. Ignet, she says that in that case she's found it and she'll be happy to spend a few hours with her. The woman says that's wonderful and thanks the lady. She also asks if Ignet will be free in the next 10 days, to which the girl replies yes. The woman says that's excellent and will send a carriage for her, then apologizes for disturbing her and says goodbye. She also tells them to enjoy their meal because they will see each other in 10 days. Returns with her servants and the maid addresses her and asks what the lady plans to do with this store. The girl replies that she wants to start a business. The maid apologizes and asks if the mistress is planning to start a business. Ignet. She replies that it's not exactly her, of course, but she plans to appoint Isaac. At the same moment, the girl sees her family walking around the city. The young lady also recalls how her sister said that she had urgent matters to attend to and that she simply could not accommodate her, after which he realizes that they are sisters. Herke. The maid Cottonwool almost cries at times, and the main character, noticing this, turns to her and asks why she is crying. It's not that important, but Lena asks Her Highness how she can say that. She heard it too, and the girl said she had urgent matters. So how could she do that? Ignet. She replies that everything is fine and that she also had things to do, so Lena should not be upset under any circumstances, and the girl also suggests going home. At this time, the Duke reads the document and understands that Duke Luther Harakea is a cold-blooded, greedy and calculating man. He is practically the hands and feet of Emperor Baron. A man of such standing has a daughter, who appeared in public so rarely that society almost forgot about her existence. She also has blonde hair that's completely different from her parents. She's beautiful and modest. That's all that's known about her. The guy realized he didn't find this girl modest. It was clear from her eyes that she was in pain. Still, the girl quickly pulled herself together and pretended everything was fine. She stopped her own mother from asking for money, and then she herself asked to send money to her directly, so he can't imagine what this girl is up to, and the Duke says that he doesn't like it. Well, one thing he can say for sure is that her letters are not a pretext or a cover. Ignet Herke sincerely desires direct communication with him. Since his sword can't hear her thoughts, He'll have to figure it out for himself, and he'll pretend to be trusted for as long as he can. After which the guy asks where Henki's house is. Rosalie, meanwhile, is heading home with her parents. The main character watches them from the balcony, then turns around and heads back to her room. She says everything is fine and her last name is now Ascalon. But at that very moment, someone turns to the girl and asks if she's trying to convince herself of this. When the main character turns around, she sees a brunette in front of her on the balcony. He apologizes with a smile on his face if he scared you, but he thought the balcony doors would be closed. The main character wonders if this is the same attorney, but realizes it's the third floor. The guy claims he brought her what the lady asked for, and showing the letter, he asks if she will let him in. Ignat understands that this is the answer from the Duke, after which he says that he can come in and settle down over there. When the guy sits down at the table, he apologizes for the lateness of his visit, and for showing up unannounced. Ignat says that it's nothing, and she appreciates his help. The girl also says that His Highness did write a response, to which the guy replies that yes, and he asked him to deliver it to the lady. Ignat, with a smile on her face, thinks that he really answered, after which she asks to forgive her, but she will read the letter. And in this letter it is written that the Duke sincerely hopes for her understanding, because he had no other choice but to send a confidant to their wedding. In turn, he understands why she had to stay at the Herky estate, and why she asked him to send cash benefits directly. It also says that none of this depends on them, and the girl understands that she should have guessed that her father was behind everything. Wedding attorney, and the reason why she wasn't sent to Ninor were all her father's doing. But the girl thinks what a relief this is, because it's not because the Duke didn't want this marriage. The young lady also asks if His Highness has conveyed anything else, and was he even remotely interested in her? The brunette says that unfortunately he knows nothing about this, and that he received the letter by carrier pigeon. The young lady then says that's understandable, but the guy replies that he's sure the girl is extremely interested in him. Ignat, with a wistful expression, says she hopes so, after which the guy claims that he can assume that she is also interested in His Highness, and only because they're now married. The main character is a little surprised by this, and the brunette understands that he will find out the truth and reveal what drives her, and then the Emperor needed her to be in his life. The girl then believes that she and His Highness are quite close, since the guy is his confidant. Heinz says that you can say that, and also thinks that they are one and the same person. The young lady then asks what kind of person the Grand Duke is, and the brunette asks what exactly the lady wants to know. Ignat. She replies that little is known about him, and that's only through rumors. So she's curious about what he's really like. The guy asks what rumors she's talking about, after which the girl claims that he always drinks a glass of red liquid before going to bed, and that he is not very good in bed because he rarely sees women. Many people saw him talking to himself, so a rumor spread that he was possessed by the devil. The guy gets angry after this and says there are too many rumors. The girl insists that this happens when you're famous, and the brunette wonders if the lady really married such a man despite all these rumors. Ignat. She claims that she doesn't attach any importance to them, and that these rumors and the truth are completely different things, so she must first verify everything for herself. The brunette asks if this is really the case, and in that case she should just introduce us to His Highness. The girl is a little surprised after this and apologizes, claiming she didn't mean to, but her interlocutor says everything is fine, and he understands. Then asks if she has any other questions. The girl hands over the letter and says that she doesn't have a question but a request, after which she asks if he would like to convey it to His Highness. Heinz asks if this is another letter, to which the girl replies that this time it is more of a proposal. A little while later, the Duke reads this letter and realizes that it is interesting and very suspicious. The sword asks what is suspicious there, after which the Duke asks what he thinks. After which, the guy claims that his wife clearly knows a lot, because in the letter, it is written that she would be very grateful if he agreed to send the allowance not in gold, but in Manor stones, and once again asked to keep it all a secret. The Duke understands that mana stones are magical crystals that can be used even by those who lack supernatural abilities to use any magic they desire. Only he and his people know about these stones, after which the guy wonders if there is a spy or a traitor among them. But he understands that this is not true, because Darren would have caught him in a moment. Or perhaps the Emperor knows about these stones. But the guy understands that this also can't be, because he would have stolen them from him a long time ago. And then the guy thinks where the hell this girl knows about them. And is he really left with only doing what she tells him to do, and is he really going to let some 19-year-old brat push him around? The sword turns to the guy and says that he was touched to the quick, after which he is a little surprised. And he asks if that's really the case. Sword replies that yes, because he looks like he's prey. That's hard to catch. The brunette then gets angry and says it seems the sword is losing its shape, to which he replies that it's not true. But the Duke says it's true because he's losing both his hearing and sensitivity. The main character is in her bed at this time and wonders if the Duke will agree. One of the reasons he was able to become the emperor of his past life was because of the mana stones he found in the Black Forest. The Grand Duke secretly took possession of all the mana stones, and they became a powerful asset to him in the future. And now she's let him know she knows a lot about them. The boy managed to hide the existence of these stones for 8 whole years, and he'll likely fulfill her request to keep his secret. She really hopes that's how it will be, after which the lady rings the bell, and the maid comes into the room and asks if Her Highness called her. Ignat. He replies, yes, and suggests Lena get ready to go out. The maid says the mistress was busy all day yesterday, and he wonders if she's tired, because perhaps she should rest today and go about her business tomorrow. The main character replies that she is fine and understands that if she is inactive for too long, then sometimes memories of her past life begin to return to her. The pain she felt as she coughed up the red liquid, the feeling of the poison eating away at all her organs. So she wonders how she can sit idly by after something like this. A little while later, the girl turns to Marquis Charles, and she says it's a great honor to meet him. The man suggests she skip the formalities, and he asks the girl to tell him why she came to him without warning. The young lady apologizes in advance, if this sounds rude, especially since today is the first time they have met. Well, she'd like to do business with him. The man then asked if she wanted to do business with him, and if so, he'd listen to her. Then the girl takes out some papers from her briefcase and says that she would like to sell him this design. The man is very surprised when he sees him, and the young lady realizes that this is exactly the reaction she expected. After all, this doll is capable of moving its limbs like a human, and in a past life the Marquis invented it her. But his obsession with creating and experimenting caused his health to deteriorate, causing him to fall into an eternal sleep shortly after the doll was created. As a result, his business passed to caste, and the main character claims that she heard that the Marquis not only collects dolls, but also creates them himself. The girl realizes that this doll is originally his, but she hopes that he will consider this a deal for his life. The blonde then asks if he's interested. She also understands that the man will pay to save his life. The Marquis says that the lady is right, and many know him as an avid collector of dolls, but he is also interested in creating them. I had to hide this hobby, because making dolls is considered a profession for common people. For him, dolls are not just toys. They are a form of art that reflects life itself. So he asks the lady how much she wants. The main character tells the Marquis that she doesn't need money. After all, she'd first like to ask him to create several of these dolls, life-size ones. He wonders what she intends to do with such large dolls. To which the girl replies that she wants to dress them up like those dolls, for example. After which, Carl asks if she wants to say that she is going to sell clothes. After this, the lady only smiles and says that she wants to ask him to sell these dolls to her for the next 3 years. Writes to them, after which he says that this is possible, and the young lady claims that she would like to hire one of his seamstresses to create clothes and care for the dolls. The man says they have an agreement, But if she wants to stay there, he won't force her to leave Ignet? Answers that, of course, and the man says that in that case he will call them. A short time later, the man claims that he gathered all the girls there at the request of this future entrepreneur and his partner. She wants to hire one of them for her store, and now the girls will meet her in person. The lady will choose one of them, but the choice remains theirs whether to stay there or follow her. Meanwhile, the main character is thinking about dolls. She understands that before she had Lena when she was little, her only friends were dolls. There was a servant who carved a doll out of wood and painted a face on it. The main character really enjoyed playing with this doll, but at one point she accidentally damaged its clothes. The girl thought that the Koopas were not at all like people because their clothes were easily torn, especially if they did not have zippers or Velcro. She didn't want to ruin her only doll's clothes, so she played with her less and less. Perhaps it all started because one day the little girl wanted enough money to dress her doll in different clothes. Then the main character approaches the first candidate and asks if she will show her her work. She also thinks that there is nothing special so far, after which she approaches another girl. But then he is a little surprised because he realizes that these designs were not created for dolls. They have zippers and buttons, so this girl is clearly not chasing money. After all, she has a real passion for creating clothes, after which the main character asks what her name is. The girl, embarrassed, says her name is Vanessa Ignet, says she's pleased to meet you. She also claims that she is looking for a designer to open her own store. She asks if she likes creating clothes, and she answers that yes, she likes it too. And the young lady asks, how about becoming her designer? The red-haired lady, smiling, says she'd be happy to do so. The main character shakes her hand and welcomes her to the team. A short time later, she's already returning home. The girl understands that today everything went exactly according to plan, and she managed to conclude a deal with the marquis and also find a designer. At this time, someone turns to the young lady and asks if she has been to the temple again. It turns out it's her father, and the girl wonders what he's doing there. The man just turns around and says it doesn't matter. Therefore, let her hurry up and go inside, to which the girl agrees, but still thinks who this person is next to her father and whether he is really a guest. Well, when the lady takes a closer look at him, she's very surprised. She realizes that this guy has a smile that sends shivers down her spine, and she knows him because this is her second husband, and his words are clearly imprinted in her memory. A little while ago, some man said that in order for the emperor to escape from the palace, he had no choice but to carry out any order of the emperor, after which the main character realizes it's the emperor's shadow. But she still wonders why the emperor would send his right hand there. She also doesn't recall anything happening in the palace by that time. So the young lady wonders if he is working with her father, and also is it all because of her marriage to the Grand Duke. The girl also notices the envelopes in his hand and understands that this is probably the reason why he is there. Well, she has a bad feeling, and the girl understands that she has to find out what's going on. A little while later, the young lady enters her father's office and opens one of the shelves. There is that very envelope, and the girl understands that she will simply check what is inside. But when the young lady looks at it, she's shocked and asks what it is. A little while later, the whole family is at the table. Someone turns to their father and says that he is in a good mood today. The man replies that it is, after which the young lady's sister asks why her mother then asks dear if it isn't obvious. The lady's father claims he's finally received the money he was promised. The red-haired lady asks how long he's been waiting for this, after which the man asks if she really wants to know. He also claims he waited 15 years. The main character looks at these papers at this time. She realizes that the envelope contained several sheets of paper. It was a letter from the emperor. There the guy claimed that the boy had finally gotten married and the promised payment was attached to the letter. The main character wonders if this is really the board and whether he means the other sheets. She also understands that there is nothing unusual about wedding gifts, but handing over a gift personally to her father is a little strange, and also through her right hand. Not to mention the gift is an entire diamond mine. The main character wonders if her father really married her off just to get the diamond mine. She thought her wedding would mark peace between Bane and Nienor, However, if that were the case, the certificate would be meaningless. The question is, what benefit does this marriage bring to the emperor? At that very moment, the main character hears someone coming. The girl also thinks where she can hide, but at that moment someone grabs her. It turns out to be a knight, after which he gestures for the lady to be quiet. At this moment, a butler enters the room with a candle and then leaves. The knight asks Her Highness to forgive him and then descends from the tree. A short time later, they find themselves in the young lady's room. The knight claims that it was extremely dangerous. Their main character only asks him not to ask questions, to which he replies that of course, after which the girl asks how he knew that she was there. The guy replies that as he passed, he noticed a lady enter the room. He watched her perched in a tree to make sure she wasn't being followed, and then he saw the butler. So basically, he apologizes. The girl realizes she thought she was being cautious, deciding to wait until the sun went down, after which she asks him not to apologize and thanks him for his help, and also states that it is already late, so let him go. He will rest, for which the guy thanks her. Then he leaves, and when the door closes, the young lady finally sighs and realizes she's been thinking about that certificate. Her past life was full of unwanted marriages, but even so, there was a time when she truly believed that her father wished her a happy and peaceful family life, but it turns out that he just wanted to make money off of her. Any hope that her father had good intentions vanished as soon as she saw the certificate. But then the girl hits herself on the cheeks and thinks that it's enough to think about this, because she needs to focus on the reason why the emperor wanted this marriage. Ignat understands that maybe she knows something about the emperor that she doesn't. Therefore, she will ask the attorney for the stalking meeting. The girl also wonders if she will see this guy again. At this time, the brunette is on the battlefield, and one of the knights screams that they have exterminated everyone in this sector. The Duke says the boys have done a good job and he thinks that's enough for today so they can return. He also orders the merchants to be escorted back. Merchants are the ones who activate the magic in mana stones. Knights obey the Sir during this time. The man moving on says there were more mutants today than usual. His subordinate agrees and claims he counted about 30. They got too close to the mana stones. At that moment, one of them realized that sometimes the purest mana gathers and forms stones that can be found in the forest. Their power and frequency are unrivaled, but if the stone is swallowed by a monster, then he becomes exponentially stronger and more ferocious. Cain then claims he doesn't understand. Why was the master ordered to hunt down these monsters alone? Brunette claims he's already said he's nothing more than a capable pawn in the emperor's hands. But his protege insists that this is wrong, that he shouldn't treat him like this. The Duke says he knows he agreed to it. Therefore, there is no point in worrying about it, because you just need to behave quietly and wait for the right moment to attack the prey. Cain says he understands, but the brunette thinks he still has no idea how that girl found out about the mana stones. Although there is still a way to find out, he will send her the stones and also see what she will do with them. The guy also wonders when he'll be able to see his wife. A little while later, the main character is reading a book. A maid approaches her and says that Her Highness has been very busy lately. The girl asks if she really thinks so, to which the maid replies that yes, before the mistress spent a lot of time reading books, but now she often goes somewhere and is constantly busy with things, so she admires her Ignat. She replies that she didn't achieve everything alone because she wouldn't have succeeded without Lena and Sigurk by her side. So she really hopes this isn't too hard on either of them. The maid, smiling, tells her mistress that it isn't. She's also happy to serve her. The maid also says that the mistress should take better care of herself, and that she went to see Marquis Charles again today. The girl replies that yes, there are still many details to discuss, after which the maid says that the mistress should rest before tomorrow, to which she replies that she definitely should and that Lena should rest too. When the maid leaves the room, she tells the mistress not to wait too long and she will also bring her a lamp, for which the main character of the game does not thank her. She understands that she appreciates the maid's care, but she doesn't like to waste time and would also like to take a walk, but it's already late. Then she thinks that she can walk around the room. The girl also understands that in a couple of days she needs to help Lady Lisa. And it is also worth refreshing your knowledge about the East because mistakes are not acceptable. But at that very moment, the young lady hears someone knocking and gets a little scared. Well, when he turns around, he sees a man from the Duke there. He says that they meet again. The main character claims he manages to catch her off guard every time he believes there's no way to deliver letters, privately and secretly, but he is afraid that false rumors may start. So from now on, he will send official requests to visit her. The girl claims that she appreciates his concern, but it is not necessary because she does not care about rumors, and she just needs her family not to know about her communication with the Grand Duke. Then the guy claims that he will continue to visit her through the balcony. The girl asks if this will be a problem for him, to which he replies that it will not be a problem at all. The guy also asks if the lady often walks around the room reading a book, and the girl realizes he must have seen everything. The girl, embarrassed, says that she wanted to walk in the garden, but it was already dark, so she decided to walk around the room. After which, the guy asks if he can join her. Then the girl is a little surprised, and the brunette claims that he would like to walk with her in the garden, but for the sake of their privacy, they can walk around her room together. The girl realizes he's different from all the royal aides she's met. If he can climb the third-floor balcony so easily, he must be physically strong. The guy shows respect to women, so the girl thinks that her husband has chosen a wonderful assistant. At this time, the brunette claims that he noticed that the book she was reading was about the East. The girl says this is true, and asks if he knows the language of the East. The Duke notes that everyone knows a little bit, and asks if the lady is interested in Eastern lands. Ignette. She replies that she learned about the East not so much out of interest, as from the feeling that one day she would need this knowledge. The brunette then asks why she might need this knowledge, to which the girl replies that he knows. Nina Hyalite is a water channel with the East. Should it be necessary to communicate with the neighboring principality? She learned their language, and it will come in handy when she travels after marriage. The brunette wonders if this is all, after which the lady falls silent, and he claims that he is sure that the girl could have had a translator with her. So does it make sense for her to learn the language herself? The blonde says that she spent a lot of time and effort to study their politics, economics, agriculture, main branches of industry and trade. She even studied trade laws. After which the brunette asks why she needs this, and the young lady remains silent for a while. After which he says that no one would like an incompetent Grand Duchess. Remains silent after this, and the main character asks what brought him there and whether he really came about the Mana stones. The guy replies that yes, and he brought them too, which the young lady rejoices and asks if this is true. The girl also asks that her deepest gratitude be conveyed to the Duke. He also says that there is one condition for acceptance. After all, the Duke asked him to find out what the lady would use these stones for. If she tells why these stones will be hers, the main character then, with a smile on her face, asserts that she will gladly tell. After which she snatches these stones from the guy's hands and claims that it would probably be better to show them. But first, she needs to prepare everything, after which the girl asks if he will wait a little. The Duke agrees and states that in that case he will wait. A short time later he is already returning home, and lying down on the bed, she realizes there's no point to any of this. The girl keeps their meetings a secret from her family. Also, doesn't tell how she found out about the stones, but she will happily tell him what she plans to do with them. The boy also turns to his sword and asks if it remembers Lady Denver. The latter asks if the Duke is talking about the palace maids. After which he claims that of course he remembers, because this woman was the one whose intentions he revealed to the guy, and she tried to poison him. Her act was the first in a long list of betrayals and conspiracies. The Duke then says that if it weren't for Darren, he would have long ago passed away. And also, the most important lesson that he learned is that every action and virtue has its own motive and its own price. The sword claims that this is the human essence, to which the accepted one replies, that he knows and that in itself this is not bad. After all, let Darren look at him. After all, he's trying to win his own wife's trust, so he can uncover her true intentions. If she truly studied everything she mentioned, her intellect was unmatched by any aristocrat he knew. Most likely it was comparable only to that of royalty. But the sword claims the young lady is only 19 and could very well have embellished the truth. The Duke says he's right, but still, what if this is true? If the Emperor decided to marry him to a woman whose intellect rivals that of the royal family, then it's safe to assume he intended to use her to seize the duchy from him. What really bothers him is that the girl said that no one would like an incompetent Grand Duchess. He's also wondering what kind of delusional reason that is. And perhaps the girl has no idea that she is being used and sincerely wants to please others. The guy also understands that he doesn't like any of the options, but then he even wonders if it's his business at all. A little while later, the main character approaches the building and realizes that the renovation is complete. The maid claims that she specifically requested the fastest workers. But still Her Highness asks whether she will remove these boards later and how she manages to pay for the repairs. At this time, Isaac also approaches them and asks if Her Highness wanted to see him. The girl says he's early, after which he suggests they talk inside. They sit down at the table. Then the main character asks why they think they hide the store behind the boards. The maid assumes that this is for future painting and to prevent paint from splashing all over the street. The girl says that this is a concern for private property, and people will look favourably on such a reason, after which she also asks what about Isaac. The guy thinks that this is to arouse the curiosity of those passing by, to which the young lady with a smile on her face says that this is true, because when they decide on the opening date, they will finally show the store's facade. This is sure to attract the attention of passers-by. The maid then asks how the lady came up with such a brilliant idea, and the main character realizes that in her past life, someone thought of it first. After which she also says that the goal is to open the store in a month. They have a lot to do before the opening. This of course includes the arrangement of the building as well as decorating the interior and preparing the clothes for public display. It is necessary to determine prices and store policies, including those related to customers. The clothing design is already ready and Marquis Charles provides her with the labour to create the clothes. Therefore, she will be ready for the opening of the store, and in addition, she wants the fact that she owns the store to remain a secret. The girl also turns to Isaac and asks if he remembers that he promised to show her his talents and that she would prefer him to lead the entire operation. The boy asks if the lady would really trust him with such a serious task. To which the girl smiles and asks Togo just not to say that he has lost confidence. To which the guy replies that even if he doesn't answer, he will never let her down. Ignette. She says that it's decided then and hands him a bag of money. She says there are 10 gold coins in it. So let him spend this money exclusively on himself. He's about to have a lot more to do in his life. So he needs to buy a lot of things to prepare. For him and for her, this is just the beginning. And the girl wants him to know that he's not alone anymore. The guy with a smile on his face says he'll remember that. The girl realizes that she was finally able to repay Isaac for everything he did for her in his past life. So it's time to say goodbye to their unhappy past. The young lady also wishes the guy luck. Much time later, she's already heading somewhere and asks what the guy said. The man replies that the Duchess ordered him to make sure that she does not leave the estate grounds again. Ignette asks if she did this out of the blue and also thinks that she has never done anything like this before. The butler states that he does not dare doubt her ladyship's judgment, and she mentions some guests who will arrive tomorrow, so her ladyship requires her presence at dinner. The main character thinks about her mother's guest and understands that it must be Uncle Nigel, and asking for her company instead of Rosalie's means something. After all, the woman must want to protect her precious youngest daughter from this disgusting man, and the very thought of him makes the girl sick. After which, she tells the butler to tell her mother that she will not be able to attend because she has other important matters to attend to. The butler asks for forgiveness, and the main character says that this is the mother's bone after all, and her presence there is not necessary. But the guy claims that this is an order from Her Highness, to which the girl says that he may have forgotten, but she is already a married woman, and her mother is no longer her patron, and from now on, let him address her according to her title of Grand Duchess, unless he wants to bring shame on the Herky family by demonstrating his ignorance. The maid is a little surprised by this and realizes that she has never seen Her Highness snap like that. At this time, the young lady turns to Lena and asks if she is coming, after which the maid immediately runs after her mistress. At this point, the protagonist realizes that this is the first time she's reacted this way, and it wasn't as scary as she thought. This was enough to make her feel in control of her own life for the first time in her life. As they move on, the maid asks Her Highness if tomorrow is already the very day Lady Lisa spoke of. The maid also asks what the mistress will do if the Duchess of Herky does not allow her to leave the estate. Ignette? She replies that she doubts that the woman will stop her, as she is unlikely to want to put their family problems on display. Well, the maid says that she is still worried, after which she also points to the enchanted store where they made the order. So she can't believe she'll see magic with her own eyes. But at that very moment, someone screams for the guy to get out of the way. One man shouts that he will not hesitate to use this dagger. The young lady understands that he is speaking an Oriental language and thinks that at this rate, the situation could escalate into a conflict, after which she tells them to wait. A blonde guy asks if the girl speaks his language. She replies that she doesn't speak much and asks if he could hide his weapon. The merchant then asks if the lady understands him, to which she replies that she understands just a little, and asks them to tell her what happened there. The merchant says the woman took out her purse to pay for her purchase, but this guy appeared out of nowhere and tried to snatch it from her hands. The green-haired lady screams that this stranger almost robbed her. Ignette understands that he is wearing traditional Oriental clothing, and that this is what is worn in high society. Lisa told her about him, but the girl doubts that he would engage in robbery, after which the main character claims that they say that the guy tried to steal this woman's wallet, and asks if she can ask why he did it. The blonde guy asks if she means this wallet, after which he claims it is his. A little earlier he encountered this woman and believes that it was then that she kidnapped him. The main character translates that the man says the wallet belongs to him and the girl stole it, but she just screams, "What kind of brazen lie is this? There are plenty of witnesses around who say he tried to steal from her." Ignette. He claims that all they have to do then is find out who the real owner is and asks if the girl will tell him what is in it. The lady with green hair replies that of course it's money, and more precisely, the currency of their country. The main character then asks the guy if he could describe the contents of the wallet to prove that it is his, to which he replies that yes, there is something in there. Then claims there's a lining with his name embroidered in gold, and the girl can see for herself. The main character translates that the guy says his name is embroidered on the pad inside, and she'll check. Ignette also asks what his name is, to which the guy replies that he is Kahin, and the young lady says it's all true, because the name Kahin really is there. People around then say the girl didn't say anything about embroidery, and did she really try to rob him? The green-haired lady then turns around and starts running away, after which people scream for her to stop quickly. Meanwhile, Kahin thanks the young lady for her help. He also claims that he would like to repay her debt and asks if she would like to join him for a meal. The girl thanks him and claims that he is very kind, but unfortunately she has to go. She also wishes him a pleasant time, to which he thanks her, but he claims that if they meet again, he will definitely thank her. After this, the main character heads to the magic shop. The worker then claims the magic has been activated. The main character is amazed and says the stone's color has become more intense. The maid claims she's never seen anything like it and it's amazing. The guy behind them also says that it is really amazing, after which the maid whispers to her mistress if he really followed them. The girl whispered replies that she is not sure that it was he who followed them because he was there before them. But Lena says he keeps looking their way and perhaps he's fallen in love with Her Highness. The main character simply asks the maid to stop. But when they leave the shop, the guy still follows them, and the main character wonders if the gentleman wants to tell her something. The guy replies yes and asks the lady to state her name. The main character is then a little surprised, and the guy with a smile on his face says that she knows his name, and also in his country it is elementary politeness to exchange names. Well, the lady with the blonde hair says that in her country, basic politeness is at least some respect for strangers, and he speaks to her very familiarly. The guy asks if this is really true, after which he claims that then they can become friends and then speaks to him informally. Ignet. He thinks he's interpreting her words as he pleases. Meanwhile, Kahin says there's a saying in his homeland: if two people meet 3 times by chance, then it is fate. They've already met twice, so they're already friends of sorts. The girl thinks that if this is really the man Lady Lisa was talking about, she must absolutely not disrespect him, and the young lady insists that her name is Ignet. Afterwards, he asks if that's all he's had, but the guy only asks if she wants to help him. She asks if that's why he's chasing them to, which he replies that the lady is a very kind soul. He also asks to forgive his straightforwardness, but claims that he simply has to ask. What do women like? After all, tomorrow he has a meeting with someone very important, whom he hasn't seen for a very long time. Therefore, he would like to give her a gift, but he has absolutely no idea where and what he can buy there. The young lady then says that he must really value this person, to which the guy replies that one could say that. The maid at this time only looks furiously at this guy and thinks that he should not make eyes at Her Highness. The main character then tells the maid that this man already has someone special, and he asks for help in choosing a gift for her. After which Lena smiles. The main character thinks the maid is being overprotective. The young lady then says fine and she'll help the guy, although she also says that if he truly values this person, he should know her preferences better than she does since she's just a stranger. The girl asks what she's like and if she mentioned anything and what she wanted to get. The guy replies that yes, she mentioned it, but he can't give it to her. The young lady asks why, to what Kahin replies that it is because he cannot give her what she already has. She always said before that she wanted to run away with him somewhere far, far away, to a place where no one would recognize them and to start all over again, and now she lives there in the country of a young lady. So maybe she doesn't need anything from him. The young lady then says that besides what he said, she wants to be with him. She did say that she wanted to run away with him and that most of all, she wanted to spend her days with the one who was dear to her. So let the guy think a little. Can he remember the moments when she was very happy about something? The young man replies that the only dessert she ate as a child was one with a bunch of fresh strawberries, and he remembers how happy she seemed then. Then the main character tells him to give her strawberries, because her sister mentioned a bakery that makes an excellent strawberry cake. The guy just stops and asks if she thinks that'll be enough. The young lady asks what he's talking about because she's sure the girl will be thrilled. After all, it's not just a dessert, and it gives her a truly special memory. Kain! He says he hopes she feels the same way. A little while later, they're already leaving the bakery, and the guy with blonde hair says goodbye to Ignet and thanks her for today. He also claims to be looking forward to their third meeting. The girl also says goodbye to him, but then he becomes a little depressed because he thinks that the thought of returning home makes him feel uneasy. Enraged, her disobedient mother and her perverted brother. But the girl finally understands that she must face them head on, after which she declares they are returning home. When she steps into the carriage, she realizes that she has been brought back to life ever since. What she hates most isn't her father, who literally sold her out, or even her mother, who didn't care. And it's not even her third husband who poisoned her, and herself for not being able to stand up for herself properly. But she won't step on the same rake, and he'll be able to handle it. The Duchess is sitting with her brother at this time, and he's asking where the hell everyone is. And didn't she tell him about his visit? The woman replies that she already told him that everyone had plans they couldn't cancel, and she also asked them all to return to the skin, so they will return any minute. But the man is only asking if she thinks she should be gentler with her only brother. After all, in her place, he would have been more careful, because it could happen that he would suddenly let it slip. How the girl put her sister into eternal sleep to take her place as Duchess, and it would be awkward. After this, the woman screams at him to watch his language because someone might hear. Well, the guy claims that he wouldn't have time to reveal all her secrets if her daughter were there because he would be too busy playing uncle. The woman thinks how fed up she is with this monster, after which her brother says that in general it's okay. After all, he is thinking about starting a new business, and the woman asks if he is there to beg for money. But she has nothing to give him because she herself has a limited budget. Then the man claims that he will talk to her husband, but she only screams at Nigel. Well, at that very moment, someone knocks on the door, and it turns out to be the main character who tells her mother that she is home. The woman invites her to come in, and the girl does so, after which her uncle rejoices. The young lady tells him they haven't seen each other in a while. He points to his knee and says the girl has become a real beauty, after which he invites her to sit down, but the girl tells her uncle that she has to refuse. After all, she is already 19 years old and she no longer wants to listen to his offensive jokes. And besides, it would be great if he stopped behaving so indecently with his own niece since she is now married. The woman then turns to her daughter and says that her uncle dotes on her, and she says, "Such things." Well, the girl just says that someone told her that she should learn to act modest in order to make a man fall in love with her, and the next time she comes, let her wear something with a deep neckline. Nigel said these words to her when they were alone in the room, and one day when she went out to meet him alone, he tried to drag her into the carriage. The woman then turns to her brother and asks if this is true, to which he replies that he was just joking with his charming niece. The girl says that on her part it didn't seem like a joke at all, and what's more, she is confident that her husband, who is the Grand Duke of Ascalon, would agree with her. The man then clenches his fists and then screams out how impudent and arrogant the girl is. He also raises his hand to hit her, but when he hits her with his hand, the knight immediately protects the young lady. And the Baron hits him. Girk says that he stood up to protect the Duchess and the Grand Duchess. However, he is still forced to ask him to stop this commotion. The woman then thanks him. Gurka says that she is glad that he intervened, after which she asks if he could take Ignette to her room because she will deal with Nigel. The guy then agrees with her ladyship and leaves. When they get outside, the main character tells Gurkus that he's just in time. The knight claims that Miss Lena was worried about Her Highness, and he was keeping an eye on her, just in case when he saw the Baron swing at her and then he unknowingly intervened. The girl says it's clear and asks for forgiveness as he suffered because of her. The guy then asks Her Highness not to apologize, because he was only doing his duty, but if it makes her feel better, then let her promise him something. The girl asks what the knight says if she ever finds herself in a similar situation again. Then he asks her not to put herself in danger. The girl is a little surprised by this, but then she still says that she can't promise him, that Gurk says that he in no way doubts Her Highness's abilities and merely meant that he can deal with such situations for her. But the girl says that this is the problem, because only those who have someone who can protect them can speak out against injustice. The girl also asks what this means for those who are defenseless and whether they really have no rights. She understands that she is still weak, but she must fight, and one day the day will come when the wounds will heal, and she will become stronger than ever. The knight then says that in his opinion, Her Highness is already strong enough. A short time later, the Baron furiously returns to his carriage. The girl observing this realizes that previously he usually came to the outbuilding and threw tantrums, so she's surprised that he's simply leaving. And maybe the mother really did calm him down and also stood up for her, but that's not like her at all. The girl also understands that usually by this time her attorney comes to see her, but apparently he won't come today. The girl also remembers that answer from His Highness, and it was written there that now he should be in the Black Forest. The main character also asks whether to tell him that she wants to meet, after which she takes paper and pen in her hands and writes to the Grand Duke. She hopes this letter reaches him safely and she wants to see him today because she's very interested in him and there's nothing she can do about it. So far, everything is going according to plan, and soon she'll be able to show him what she intends to do with the mana stones. She also hopes that she'll achieve her goals and that the Black Forest expedition will soon be over, after which she also writes whether she will be able to see him then, but the girl then sighs. And she asks what the point of this letter is since she won't be able to send it anyway. At that moment, a brunette appears behind her and asks who the recipient is. That's making her sigh so much. She replies that it's His Highness, but at that moment she realizes someone has snuck into her room and cries out how long they've been there, to which the guy replies, "About a couple of minutes." He knocked but the girl didn't hear and he was about to go back, but he had something for her. The young lady claims she was too engrossed in her letter, and the guy asks how about exchange, and he will give His Highness's gift in exchange for the letter. He also asks why the lady didn't say that she couldn't send the letter, to which the girl replies that it was because she can only communicate with the Grand Duke through him and he comes whenever he wants. Even though the marriage was a mutual decision, she still felt like she was the only one who needed it. After all, she has no idea where he is in this vast dark forest. Bruna then points out that the entrance to the Black Forest isn't that big. The forest itself is large, and that's true, but its structure makes it extremely difficult to navigate, and it's also sheltered by mountain ranges. If you climb one of the watchtowers that stand in the open area, near the entrance to the forest, bordering barren, you'll be able to see it. Then you can see the barracks, where His Highness currently lives, after which he is also interested. How does the lady think, and does she now know where His Highness is, to which the girl smiles and says yes. She also thanks him and claims that it's much better this way. The young lady also asks what kind of gift it is. The guy replies that it's a necklace inlaid with mana stones. It's disposable, but it contains high-level protective magic. The young lady then becomes delighted and realizes that he has the same color as her eyes. So it must be a coincidence since they have never met, but still it is wonderful. The guy then asks to let him put this necklace on her. Their main character says that he should convey her gratitude to His Highness because she is delighted. The girl also claims that today she met a man and a duke. Wondering what kind of man this is, Ignette says that he tried to pick out a gift for someone special to him, and she was even a little jealous of this person. But now she believes that's unnecessary. The Duke merely smiles and says he thinks she needs a more reliable means of communication with the Duke. Then he asks if he'll come to her every evening, unless something unforeseen happens. The young lady wonders if he'll really come every evening and if that's too much for him. To which the young man replies that absolutely not, and that there's no problem. After all, until he comes up with something better, he'll visit her every day around that time. He also claims that it is already late, after which he says that he turns away and jumps from the balcony. The young lady just comes out and looks after him, while the guy at this time is already near the Black Forest. He comes out of the teleport, and the sword claims that his wife liked the gift. The Duke asks how he should know since he can't read her thoughts. Darren replies that this necklace was made from the last green stones that he had, only because that is the color of her eyes. And he didn't have to go to all that trouble just to give her a gift, but the Duke says he has no idea what it's about. And also, the green eyes simply impressed him. That's all. A little while later, someone thanks Her Highness for coming all this way. The man claims this business meeting is extremely important to him, so he was nervous. But when his wife said she'd be helping Lady Ignette today, it was like a weight had been lifted from his heart. The woman says he and his wife have done so much for her, so this is the least she can do in return. She also asks if he could tell her more about today's meeting, to which the man replies, "Of course." And this is the owner of their business, originally from the East, and apparently her younger brother will be coming to visit her today. The girl then assumes that she does not speak their language, to which the man replies that he assumes that this is the case and that he rarely deals with his superiors. The main character wonders if the business owner doesn't know their language and maybe she just moved there recently. At this time, the man knocks on the door of the room and claims that it is Pokins and their translator, Her Royal Highness the Grand Duchess of Ascalon, who has arrived. The man immediately approaches the young lady and says that they were waiting for her, after which he says that he is pleased to meet Her Highness, and also Polkins. He claimed there wasn't a better detective or translator in the country than her. The main character heard this name and thought it couldn't be true. She also watches as the man extends his hand to her and states that they are honored that she is helping them today. Her with the same hand, and insisted that she should have obeyed while she had the chance. He also said that he was the controller of the Baron Trade Association, but a little later he said that her punishment was over only thanks to him. So now the girl cannot believe that Polkins works for the Custer Trade Association. Brogia was one of the advisors to her third husband, Baron Custer. One day he asked the girl if she had thought about a way to renew her business relationship with the Rev Trade Association, and in her place he would have hastened to resolve this problem unless, of course, she wanted to avoid the same fate as the previous 5 owners. What the man did to her brought him genuine pleasure, and he was truly an evil man. Now, the young lady says that she is glad to meet him and understands that she needs to calm down, because this Borgia does not know who she is. And everything is fine, so the lady leaves his hand and claims that her name is Ignet Ascalon. At this time, the man asks to be introduced to the owner because this is Lady Arabelle, and also the owner of a trade association, Barena. The main character realizes that this is Cast's current wife and she is beautiful, thinks that everything is clear about the lady. Once upon a time, Borgia's ridicule was intended to humiliate her and all those rumors about Custer's previous wives. So the young lady wonders why this woman, having married a man from this country, does not speak their language. After all, she's going through the same thing she once went through. After which the main character greets her and says her name is Ignet, and that she will be her translator today. The girl realizes that she wants to help this lady, after which she asks if she needs help. The woman is surprised by this, and Borgia not understanding. The translation asks what the girl told her. The main character replies that she just introduced herself and asks if it is not basic politeness to introduce ourselves to each other. The young lady also realizes that as she thought this man is afraid because he doesn't understand them, after which he simply smiles and says, "Of course." The young lady claims that this dress suits Lady Arabelle incredibly well, after which she speaks in her language so that she points to the dress and answers the question of whether she is being followed. The woman then does so and claims that yes, but also says that she doubts that she can help her. The main character thinks that she is looking at her past self because every attempt ended in failure, and in the end she gave in. That's why the girl can't leave things as they are, after which she says she can, but at that very moment someone knocks on Brogia's room, claims that it seems their guest has arrived. He also opens the door to the room and goes in. Kahin. The young lady realizes that this is the same guy she met on the street, and the woman is surprised when she sees him, after which the guy just runs up to her and hugs her, after which he asks how his sister is doing. The woman replies that everything is fine, and it's thanks to him because she missed him so much. The protagonist realizes she had a premonition that this guest would be Kazan, and now she understands that someone special is his sister. Arabelle at this time says how much she missed him, but Brogia blocks this family atmosphere and then asks Her Highness if she will translate what he is going to say. The girl wonders if he can't give them a minute, and what a heartless, egotistical man he is. She also apologizes for blocking their voices, but insists that the man wants to say something. Kahin is about to approach the young lady, but she only tells him to pretend that he doesn't know her. After this, Brogia bows and says that it is an honor to meet him because his name is Brogia and he serves Lady Arabelle. The young lady then translates his words. She then also translates Kahin's words about his deep gratitude for the opportunity to meet Lady Arabelle. The man replies that it's nothing and that the boy is her younger brother, so naturally they were meant to meet. The main character thinks what he is getting at, and the man then smiles and asks if he can ask now. When the deal they had previously agreed upon is completed, the protagonist realizes she remembers that look. But she is almost sure that this man is trying to deceive Kahin, after which the young lady translates his words. And the young man with blonde hair says that at any time before his return to the East, even now if that's what he wants. The main character understands that she must disrupt the deal at any cost. She then turns to Brogia and says the deal will be concluded the morning of his return to the East. He asks if she could ask if it would be possible to complete it earlier, after which the main character agrees and turns to the guy and says that she has no idea what kind of deal they have, but they have to delay it as long as possible. The guy is a little surprised by this, and the main character tells him to shake his head when he answers as if he was saying no. The young man then does so, and the protagonist, turning to Borgia, says that it will be difficult. The young lady then thinks that he seems to understand what she means, but the young man with blonde hair tells her to wait and tell him that the deal will be concluded as soon as possible, but on one condition. After all, he needs one day that he can spend with his sister and just the two of them. The young lady then translates this, and Borgia asks if he really wants to spend the day with the owner. He also says that he would gladly fulfill this condition if it depended only on him, but their association is soon throwing a ball, and the owner, not to mention the other members of the association, will be extremely busy for the next 3 or 4 days. The guy says that he is spending another 2 weeks there, so there is not enough time, and he will also gladly accept an invitation to his sister's ball if he is sent. The man then says yes, of course, and then tells her he'll send a carriage for them on the day of the ball. The main character understands this is a good thing, and she doesn't know what's going on in Kain's mind, but he's managed to buy himself some time, after which the main character tells him to come to the bakery that she showed him tomorrow at 10 a.m. because there she will tell him about the details. The boy then agrees, and the young lady translates that Kahin says he'll wait. The man then thanks Her Highness and says that now that this matter has been sorted out, the two of them will leave and be alone. That same evening, the main character goes out onto the balcony and thinks about how recently one of the servants said that the owner gave him this note. He also asked if the lady could translate its contents, after which the young lady takes out the note and lays it out. There, the girl reads that if she really wants to help her, she should stop Kahin. The young lady then thinks about Abel, and she realizes she doesn't want to reveal the truth, fearing Kahin's reaction if he suddenly finds out, and then he too will be in danger. But the girl understands that even she could only find liberation by entering eternal sleep. At this time, someone turns to the young lady and asks what is on her mind today, after which the girl sees that it is a brunette. He asks if something has happened, after which the young lady replies that nothing at all and asks him to come in. But the guy says the lady has turned pale and asks if she's feeling unwell. He also says he doesn't feel a fever. The young lady replies that she's not sick and everything is fine, after which he says okay, and if the lady is okay, then that's good. But then the guy also notices the note in her hand and asks what's there. The young lady simply suggests that he sit down first, after which the guy does so. Ignette. She claims that someone needed her help today and asks if he remembers how she talked about the man she met on the street. The brunette asks if she means the one she helped choose a gift for. The young lady replies that yes, and his sister was in an extremely dangerous situation, so she told her that she would help her. But the lady isn't even sure how she can do that. The guy then asks if she'll reveal the situation to Italy, if she doesn't mind, of course, and maybe together they can figure out a way out of this situation. The young lady then asks if he wants to do it together, to which the guy replies that they can't turn away from a person who needs help. The main character then thanks him and claims that at the request of her friend, she worked as a translator at a meeting with a guest from the East and will speak frankly. Lady Abel is being watched. The trade association controller wants to exploit her. The brunette wonders if this is to put pressure on a man named Kahin, and it seems to him that the problem has a rather simple solution, because they just need to convince Kahin not to fulfill his part of the deal. But the main character says that this is not all, because she wants to free Lady Arbel and get her out of that trading association. But the brunette says that she mentioned that she is a business owner, so it won't be easy. After all, one wrong step, and the entire association will turn against Lady Arbel. The girl replies that she understands this and the complexity of the situation like no one else. Well, she still says that she simply cannot allow her to suffer even more and understands that she has no choice. The brunette asks what the lady is going to do, to which he replies that she only needs a couple of days, and then they could transfer the lady to the east through the Nino water channel. The guy then asks what her plans are, to which the blonde replies that there must be a way and she needs to find it. Tomorrow, she will meet with Kahin, and they must find a solution. The Duke then declares that he will go with them, and they will all meet together. The young lady realizes that she, of course, told him the meeting place and time. But when she comes there the next day, she sees the guy and says that today he shines brighter than usual. After which, the girl also wonders why he's dressed like that. The brunette replies that he always dresses like that, and the main character wonders if that's really true. The maid asks Her Highness if this is the man from her wedding. Ignette replies that this is true, and this guy is the attorney of the Duke of Ascalon, and his name is... But then the young lady realizes that she doesn't even know his name, and claims that she only now realized that she never asked his name. She just didn't think that they would see each other again, after which she still asked what his name was. After this, the guy thinks for a bit, and then tells the girl to call him Hertz. The young lady thinks that he and the Duke have such similar names, after which she also introduces her maid and bodyguard. The brunette also greets them and says that he is pleased to meet them and that now they will see each other more often, so he hopes that they will get along. The main character asks if he's busy too, which he replies that he is. After which the young lady says they should go, but still wonders why he came if he's so busy. After that, they go into the pastry shop, and Kain, seeing the young lady, says that she has arrived. But then he is a little surprised because he sees it next to her another guy and asks who she brought. The brunette asks if this is how one treats people they meet for the first time, after which the guy with blonde hair asks if he speaks his language. The Duke says he thinks he has the answer, but they don't know. The young lady also says the brunette is right, and he should be more polite to strangers. After this, the Duke only smiles, and the young lady wonders why he is grinning like that, after which she turns to him, but he only bows and says that everything is fine. A blonde-haired boy asks Ignette who this man is. She replies that his name is Hertz, and he's her husband's attorney. The blonde guy is shocked by this and asks if she's married too, which she replies, yes, she has been recently. Kahin then puts his hands on his head and asks if the woman destined for him is already married. The brunette then gets angry and asks what he's talking about, to which the young lady replies that he's just joking. And in the East, they say that if you meet someone 3 times by chance, it means they are destined for each other, and yesterday was their 3rd meeting. The Duke only snorts after this and asks if people really believe such things. At this time, Ignette turns to Kahin and says that in general there is something that he should know, after which the lady claims Arabella is being closely watched. It's Borgia whom he met yesterday and her husband Castus. She spoke with Arbel before his arrival and she said she needed help. She also asked him to make sure he didn't fall victim to their deception. She also feared she wasn't just being followed but also bullied. After this, the guy immediately jumps up from the table and heads somewhere, but the main character screams out where he is to, which he replies that he is going for his sister. But the brunette claims that in his place he wouldn't do anything stupid, after which the young man with blonde hair stops, and he asks what nonsense means. The Duke asks where he's going and what his plan is. After all, this girl is Cast's legal wife. So what he's about to do is considered kidnapping, and it's possible that even he will save, but the guy also asks if he has a place where the girl can hide. If he doesn't succeed, then he most likely won't be able to try a second time, and what's more, his sister might only suffer more from this. And the brunette asks if he knows how to deal with all this. At this time, The main character only sighs and tells Kahin to calm down and sit down. After all, they had gathered there to discuss a plan to save his sister, and the girl also wanted to know how she ended up marrying Caste. The guy then said that there was no king where he came from, but there are many aristocrats who look after their provinces. She and her sister are illegitimate children of one of the noble families, and in his homeland, having illegitimate children is something unfathomable. The man they were supposed to call their father had the conscience not to kick them out of the house, but the contempt and disdain they experienced while living there made them think that it would have been better if he had known them. To top it all off, their mother fell into eternal sleep when they were still children. Baron Caste arrived just before she turned 19. Who was the head of the Baron Trade Association? This idiot arranged a wedding with his sister by offering a generous ransom. In exchange for exclusive rights to open his own port on the East Coast, his father, blinded by money, sold his sister to a man 26 years her senior, and only later did the boy learn why sister had obeyed and not fled. Before Abel left for the Empire, his father enrolled him in a private academy, and before her marriage, he never even considered spending money on his education. That's why now the guy claims that it's all his fault, and that he's also to blame for his sister having to go through this. And it's her fault. She spent her entire life at the mercy of others. The protagonist realizes she and Abel have much more in common than she thought. Essentially, they've lived the same life. The girl also thinks she wants to save her and not because she wants to make her own life better. Well, then the young lady thinks that maybe this bitter taste of poison will finally leave her tongue. The guy with blonde hair still says that it is his fault, and the main character just takes a handkerchief and tells him not to cry. But the Duke immediately snatches the handkerchief from the lady's hands and tries to wipe away Kahinu's tears. The blonde boy is simply surprised. The brunette says this handkerchief absorbs tears perfectly, so it must be made of high-quality material. He also says that Her Highness didn't feel any pain or even get up. After all, we need to focus on the rescue plan. The main character says he's right. After which, the girl turns to Kahin and asks Togo to tell her about this deal with Brogia, to which the guy agrees. He also claims to have already said that his father opened a port on the East Coast. He also absolved the Merchant Association of the obligation to pay the corresponding taxes. The main character says that it's not easy to pull off such a thing and asks how he managed it. Kahin, he replies that he has his own ways, especially now that he has taken his father's place. The main character and the Duke are a little surprised and wonder if an illegitimate child has really become a lord. At this time, the guy only says that one can say that luck was on his side, and the main character thinks that for this to happen, more than simple luck is needed. After which, she talks about a port located close to the Empire from the east, and asks if he means the Laint region. Kahin, he replies that yes, and asks how she found out about it. The girl understands that everything is as she suspected. In her past life, the young lady sent countless letters to the east, after they suddenly cut off all trade deals. Every reply she made only received rejections, and she found it strange that the severing of trade ties coincided precisely with the plunge into eternal sleep of the lady of their house. But the girl had no idea that it was Kahin on the other end of the line. Now, the young lady says that the safest way to save Lady Abel is undoubtedly legal, so she needs to file for divorce. But to do so, she and her husband must come to the temple and return the marriage certificate, or at least send pre-approved attorneys in their place. The guy with blonde hair says that he doesn't think Caste will let her go that easily, after which the brunette asks if they can say that they will only change their tax benefits in the event of a divorce. The main character says it will only harm. Kahin, the blonde guy, asks if he can do that, and then turn everything back. But the young lady says she doesn't think it will work. The Duke says he's a grown man now, so he'll manage somehow. The young lady says that actually if he is really determined to help his sister, so she might have a plan. Well, she will need help with this, including Hertz's help, after which the young lady asks what he will say. The brunette replies that of course he will help and tells her to tell. The young lady then asked if he remembered Borgia, mentioning the ball. Kahin then agreed that afterward he could spend the day alone with his sister. So the plan is to take advantage of these moments, and most likely it will be stormy, and after that Abel will be out of sight of the people of Kast. A little while later, the brunette asks the lady if she was serious, but the girl only wonders what exactly he's talking about. The Duke asks if she really plans to personally infiltrate Kast's house and find its weak point. Ignet. She replies that the Baron Trade Association has provided the Herkey household with most of the luxury items in the estate, and she is confident that her mother will definitely be sent an invitation to the ball. However, her mother doesn't often attend social events, and she won't even notice if there is no invitation, so this is an ideal chance. But the Duke wonders if she can't just ask her mother to give her the invitation. The girl replies that she doesn't really like it when she goes out. But the guy then points out that Abel and Kahin are practically nothing to her and asks why the girl is so eager to help them. The young lady replies that in every person's life there comes a moment when he needs help, and if she were in their place, she would want at least someone, no matter who, to help her. And the least she can do is have enough self-respect to ask for help. Then the young lady finds the required letter with an invitation from Baron Kast, who is the head of the trade association. The young lady happily turns to Hertz and says that she has found it, but at that very moment they hear someone coming. The guy immediately grabs the young lady by the hand and they hide behind one of the doors. And the Duchess enters the room, and the man asks what she wants to tell him that she brought there. The woman tells him not to play dumb, and she remembers very well what he said to Rosalie the day the Emperor's man came to see him. The main character wonders if these are her parents. Meanwhile, the Duke claims that he has no idea what he is talking about. His wife only replies that he should not take her for a fool, and he did say he got paid after 15 years. The main character wonders if she's really referring to that diamond mine, and the woman at this time asks if he really wants her to describe everything in detail to remind him. After all, the Emperor paid him in exchange for Ignat's marriage. She raised and fed the girl he brought from who knows where, so he should at least include her in the share. The main character is shocked by these words, and the man claims he found a girl with the same hair and eye color, and he bore full responsibility for the successful execution of His Majesty's order. The woman insists she won't sit empty-handed, and her husband wonders if she's really saying she raised her when all she did was fight the urge to spit her out into the street. At this time, the brunette looks at the young lady who is shaking and then completely covers her ears. Also tells the girl not to listen to this. While the young lady's parents are still arguing, the girl and the Duke are outside the door. A short time later, the Duke and Duchess leave the room. As the door closes, the brunette takes the protagonist's hand, after which he takes her to her room. When the girl sits down on the couch, the guy asks if she's okay. To what, Ignet? She replies that no, and she's not okay. She's terrified to even imagine what the Grand Duke would think if he found out about all this. The brunette asks why she says that, but the girl replies that he heard everything himself, and she is the illegitimate daughter of this family. The Duke then asks if she would like it to be so. She also would prefer to be part of the Herkey family. The girl replies that she never thought about it. After which, the guy tells her to think about it right now, and if the lady never wanted this, she has no reason to be sad. After all, he thinks on the contrary, she should be happy, and he's personally glad he learned this about her. The main character then says he's just trying to reassure her, but the brunette replies that he's not at all and is completely sincere. Ignet. He thinks that even though it may seem pointless, he might be right. After all, the girl always blamed herself for being unworthy of love, but the reason was only that she was not their blood daughter. The young lady realizes it wasn't her fault. Meanwhile, the brunette tucks a strand of her hair and claims he'd like to stay with her longer, but is afraid it's time for him to go. He'll also be back in 2 days for the party. Ignet asks if he'll be coming to Rivertown, to which the guy replies that of course, and also says that no matter how much she thinks about something, she may not find the best answer. So after that, she doesn't think about all this too much, and it's better to let her rest properly. A little while later, the Duke is already in the camp, and his assistant asks if he was looking for him. The brunette then turns to Cain and says that he has an urgent task for him, after which, the guy tells Cain to make a guest list for Baron's party, which will take place in 2 days. Let him also make sure that there will be no one there who could recognize him, and let him also find out when the Duke's first daughter made her debut in high society, Herky. The guy with blue hair says that he understood the boss, and then goes to carry out the order. At this time, the sword turns to the Duke and believes that his wife is still not connected in any way with the Emperor. Heinz says he's right, because the Duke used her on the king's orders. Darren then asks what his plans are and whether the brunette will tell the girl who he really is. Heinz replies that it would be worth it because as soon as they help the brothers and sisters from the east, he will do it. Sword says that the longer the Duke delays, the more the girl might resent him for betraying her. Well, the brunette asks if he really thinks the girl will be upset if he finds out who he really is, after which he replies that she can file for divorce. The Duke sighs heavily. He understands that the situation needs to be resolved as quickly as possible, so he can get his wife out of that poorhouse. 2 days later, the young lady is already sighing with exhaustion. Meanwhile, a maid whispers to the knight that Her Highness is somewhat out of sorts today and asks if he imagines it. She hasn't even eaten anything yet, and she's sitting there staring into space, to which the knight replies that he agrees. The protagonist realizes she's heard everything, but she still can't tell them anything. At this time, someone else turns to Mrs. Ignat and asks if something is bothering her. The girl replies, no, and she just wants to make sure all the workers are prepared for work. The blonde man replies that he'll do everything to ensure everything goes smoothly, and the maid says that it's time for them to go to the party. Everything is already prepared for Her Highness. Lady Vanessa sewed it for her a magnificent dress that is one of a kind. The main character then says the girl is more excited than she is, to which the maid replies that it's because she's never seen such a wonderful dress before. She's also sure it will look absolutely stunning on her mistress. A little while later, the main character comes out in a new dress, and Lena is delighted. She says that Her Highness looks wonderful. Isaac also says that the lady is beautiful, after which the main character thanks them. The maid also asks what kind of necklace it is, as she's never seen Her Highness wearing one. The girl replies that it's a gift from the Grand Duke of Ascalon, and the maid asks if that's true. She also says that it seems that she is still dear to him, but the lady does not even imagine how happy she is for her. The main character then says that no one cares for her the way she does and hugs Lena. At this point, someone says that Hertz's carriage should have arrived by now. And when the young lady sets out on her journey, the servants wish her luck, after which the girl leaves the estate and says that they will see each other again. At this time, Hertz is waiting for the main character, and when she arrives, he has a smile on his face. He says a lady has arrived, which surprises the girl a little. She says it must be unusual for him to see her dressed up, well confused. She wonders what's wrong with her. The guy says nothing at all, and the lady is as beautiful as ever. The main character, smiling, says he's quite the charmer, but the guy then smiles and insists he's only telling the truth, then asks if they should go. The young lady agrees, and says she's grateful to him for accompanying her today. A little while later, they are already riding in a carriage, and the young lady claims that they have a little time before arrival, after which the brunette says that then she could take a little nap, but the girl replies that no, and she will probably refuse because she wants to discuss what happened last night. After all, the guy asked her if the fact that she is not the biological daughter of the Duke and Duchess upsets her, and her answer is yes, of course it's upsetting. She lived her whole life believing that they were her real parents. And it's not just a matter of blood relationship. People become family when they marry, adopt, and foster. Kinship doesn't necessarily have to be based on blood. The reason for their dislike is not that she is not their real daughter, but that for them she has always been nothing more than a tool. She just never realized it, and shed so many tears over a love that was never even intended to be given to her. But now the young lady says that she is no longer sad, because the sadness has been replaced by anger that now boils furiously within her. And so she decided to forget about them. The brunette then smiles and says that the lady is strong. But once they sort this whole situation out, everything will change. The young woman asks him what he means, after which he simply smiles and insists he'll explain everything to her once everything is sorted out. The blonde insists he's teasing, but the guy promises that sooner or later she'll understand. After which they arrive at the place, and when you enter the ballroom, someone informs you. What is Her Highness? The Grand Duchess. Ignette Ascalon arrived. The girl sees Castus at this moment, and she realizes they haven't seen each other in a long time. The girl also looks at the man standing next to the lady, and he understands that first Kahin and now they are, so he is clearly unhappy with the number of uninvited guests at his party. The young lady also knows that it is not so easy to fool him, but about him and his family. She knows much more than she would like. After which the young lady approaches Lady Arbel, and he asks if she remembers her. The man then asks Her Highness to ask him and asks if she knows his wife. The girl replies that yes, and she met her recently when she was helping with the translation at Polkin's request, and she remembers that the lady was also wearing this wonderful dress that day. But she really wanted to meet her again, so she begged her mother for an invitation to the banquet. The girl understands that everyone outside of her family knows almost nothing about her, but now she claims that the event itself is simply grandiose. She also hopes they won't mind if they stay there for one dance. Ignette understands that she needs to create the impression that she is an immature aristocrat who simply ruined a party full of businessmen, and Kahin will help her with this. The girl recalls telling him to try not to speak his language if possible. After all, she's sure Caste will deploy translators everywhere. They'll need a different way of communicating. The girl understands that for now she and Hertz are pretending to be an unsuspecting high society couple. Kahin, he'll find the butler Caste. He'll be dressed all in black and a little more formal than the other servants. If he sees him giving orders, it's definitely him. After their first dance with Hertz Caste will let his guard down, and that's when they'll need to raise a ruckus. The guy does just that, after which he cries out to the servants that he demands alcohol. But the man asks the sir to calm down as he's disturbing the other guests. However, the sir merely tells the servant to leave and whether he even knows who he is in the East. The young lady understands that since he will be a special guest, the butler will have no choice but to intervene and sort out the situation. Afterwards, the butler leads the blonde-haired man away, who merely remarks that he wishes he had a butler like him. The man escorting him asks what he's carrying and then allows him to be shown to his room. And the main character understands that as soon as Kain. If he takes the butler away, then she and Hertz will enter the game. At this time, the butler is next to the guy with blonde hair and says that if he needs anything, the servants are waiting outside and that he should enjoy his rest. However, Kain, he says that he doesn't understand a word he's babbling about and that he should bring the booze. The guy also remembers how he wondered why he needed to take the butler away. And the young lady claimed that the most influential families in the empire always had 2 workers. This is the housekeeper who is responsible for the affairs of the house and the female servants. She also has a butler who supervises the male servants, and both of them always carry the keys to the estate. When is the reception? It will begin. Then all the estate's security will be in the place where it is held, and after that, the butler will take. If Kahina goes to the guest room, he will be left alone. A little while later, the Duke knocks out the butler, and the young lady realizes that this is the perfect moment for a robbery. A short time later, they enter Caste's office. The Duke is simply curious how the girl managed to find the room so quickly, and the young lady, with a smile on her face, says that she simply guessed, because the layout of the building is almost the same as her house. The Duke then asks what exactly they are looking for, to which the lady replies that the most important thing for a merchant is his account book. Of course they need to know who exactly the deal was made with. But the book will be useful if they want to somehow influence the entire trade association. If there are any discrepancies, they can report them to her. The brunette then asks what will happen if he discovers the book is missing and suspects them. But the young lady says she knows people like Cast. Well, they're willing to do anything for personal gain and are even willing to treat people as if they were simply expendable. They easily get rid of people who have become useless to them and instill fear in those who work for them, after which they enjoy it. People like him will first of all start to suspect those who are closest to them, and all they need is to take only the main ledger and leave the rest alone. The butler will quickly guess that the book was stolen while he was unconscious, and fearing punishment, he will restore the key entries of the main ledger and also return her instead as if nothing had happened. So let Hertz not worry, because they take only what they need and quickly leave there. The young lady then points to a line in the book and claims that Count Meyer arrived at Nymph's Refuge on the 3rd. On the 4th, the exclusive right to all spices supplied to the Meyer household was purchased. Brunette continues to read that on the 12th and 15th, key figures from the Leicester Trade Association arrived at Nymph's hideout. On the 17th, a contract was successfully signed with the Leicester Trade Association. All the most important meetings are held in some nymph hideout. After which, the guy says that he remembers something, and in his opinion, it is the restaurant in which the Baron Trade Association receives its special guests. The main character wonders what he is talking about, and in her past life, she never heard anything about it. The girl also wonders what kind of restaurant this is and why it doesn't exist in that future, after which she decides that's all they needed, so it's time to leave. The young lady says she'll go and signal Kahin and also asks if he could take the book to the carriage. The guy agrees and says they'll meet at the reception. A little while later, the blonde thanks him for his help. But Hertz? He says that it's nonsense, and he was just doing what the lady told him to do, so he hopes that now that they know about the restaurant, the investigation will be a little easier. Ignat asks if he will come to Rivertown tomorrow, because they need to think about their future plan, and she also wants to show him what she is going to do with the Mina stones that the Grand Duke gave her. The brunette, with a smile on his face, says that of course, and he is looking forward to it. After which he kisses the lady's hand and says they'll see each other soon. The two then part ways, but the brunette stops and realizes this is all very suspicious. He wonders how the girl managed to navigate so well in a house she had never been in before. And also, how could she know how Cast and the butler would act? It was as if she already knew them before. Perhaps someone has already told her everything, and the guy is wondering if that someone could be Luther Herkey. He knows what the Duke and Duchess need, but knows absolutely nothing about his wife. After which, the guy thinks that all this is some kind of sophisticated plan of the Grand Duchess to lull his vigilance. And the guy thinks that he can't relax because he saw with his own eyes how much the Duke's words hurt her. It's not that he wants to suspect her, but if he doesn't, he knows perfectly well what could happen. The guy knows that it's possible to fall into eternal sleep prematurely. Well, then the Duke suddenly hears someone walking, after which someone bursts into the young lady's room. It turns out it's her father, and he's screaming, calling the girl's name. Meanwhile, the brunette is wondering what could have made him so angry. But the man just swings and hits his daughter and screams what she did. A little while ago, a man was sitting at a table and realized that much more money was being spent on this diamond mine than he thought. But it doesn't matter, because he still has Ignat's allowance that Duke Ascalon will send him. The man recalls how he received a letter from the Duke, which said that this notification informs him that the monetary allowance for the Grand Duchess, which they had previously agreed on, was sent to the Grand Duchess's personal account. The man, seeing this, was furious and wondered what it all meant. And now he's crying out, how dare the girl keep silent about the Duke sending the allowance to her personally instead of him? And did she really think she could fool her father? The young lady then turns to her father, and she says that she has no idea what he is talking about and what kind of benefits she received. The young lady also wonders if her father really asked the Duke to pay him for her, The man then realizes he's let it slip, as the girl shouldn't have known. And also, he should not discuss this with Ignat, but with the Grand Duke, because he should send this money to him, after which the man tells the girl to forget about it, because this is just a misunderstanding, and let her pretend none of this happened. But the girl tells her father that no, and she knows what she heard, so she can't pretend she didn't. She also wonders if his own reign is such an expensive condition for him, and that is why he asks the Duke to pay him an allowance. The blonde asks if she has always been nothing more than a thing for him that can be easily sold at a higher price. The man then swings again and screams at her to watch her language, but the girl says he didn't even congratulate her on her wedding, and then she starts crying. The Duke understands that at the moment it would be wiser to leave Ignat alone because she always wanted love. Therefore, he is confident that she will do everything to be loved, and if he does everything right, the girl herself will happily give him all the money. After which, the man smirks and says yes, and he also understands what's upsetting her. He congratulates his daughter on her wedding and hopes she'll forget that he so thoughtlessly attacked her. And when he leaves the room, he apologizes. The main character is then left alone, and she tells her father that it's too late because she waited so long for these words, and now it's too late. A little while later, the Duke enters the room and wonders if the girl has fallen asleep since she turned off the light. The guy thought that she had been neglected all her life, and that in itself was terrible, but now he thinks how much she had to endure with such an attitude. The Duke also understands that he thought he was the expert there on how to be betrayed by loved ones. There is a certain limit to betrayal, and attempts to plunge into eternal sleep, after which you completely stop trusting people. But his wife is different because he doesn't understand how she is able to help others after going through all this. The guy also thinks how she can be so strong, and he hopes that he will get to know her better. A little while later, the girl approaches Hertz and Kohin, after which she says that they both arrived early. The Duke at this time looks at her, smile, and then tells the lady to sit down. The main character does just that, then puts the book on the table and states that they don't have much time, so she'll get straight to the point. Ignat says that this is the account book of the Bar and Trade Association, and it contains everything they need to know about Cast's most important clients. Once they manage to sever these trade ties, he will be much more willing to accept Abel's divorce conditions in order to restore his company's position. They also need to take preventative measures to prevent other trade associations from helping him in the future. Are surprised by this, and the young lady, with a smile on her face, says that Kohin should do everything to isolate Cast from everyone whose names are in this book, whether it's paying fines or blackmail. The blonde guy says okay, and he understands. He also asks how much she'll have to pay for these fines she's talking about, after which the girl says that in total it will probably come out to about 8,000 gold coins. Kahin, he claims he's of noble birth, but that's a huge sum. The girl replies that there's always the option of earning money. She also plans to create her own trade association so they can negotiate that free import clause with her instead of Cast. And then she will pay all the fines for him, after which the young lady hands over the contract she drew up, and also tells the guy not to rush, to read everything and think it over carefully. Everything is written there, but for all the work that will take place in the East, she plans to hire their people. Thus the benefits will be for him, his people, the country, and her Kahin asks if she really drew up the contract herself. The Duke says that he, of course, knew that she wanted to create her own association, but even so it would be difficult to earn that much money in a couple of days, and the blonde says that's why she needs investments. The young lady takes a letter from her bag and hands it to Hertz, saying that his help is needed. The girl wonders if he could convey her request for investment to the Grand Duke. The guy then asks what she will do if he does not agree, to which the girl replies that everything is fine because they have a backup plan. But she would like to offer him first of all because suddenly, sooner or later, he will find out about everything himself, and the girl does not want her husband to feel deprived. The brunette says that he will take care of delivering her invitation to the Duke and the Nth lady, thanks him, after which she says that she would like to receive his answer before she and Kahin sign the contract. After which the girl rises from her seat and asks if they will follow her now. The Duke inquires where the young lady is going and asks if he remembers what she said about showing them what she was going to use the mana stones for and also proving her worth to both of them. A little while later, the two find themselves in one of the rooms and the Duke wonders what all this is. The girl asks if it's obvious since this is her clothing store. The brunette approaches one of the mannequins, and he says it's so realistic, the whole town will be talking about the store. The girl replies that she agrees. As for the mana stones, she asks them to go there. Then they enter the room and see some kind of device. The brunette wonders what it does, but then suddenly feels that as soon as you enter this room, you immediately feel something special in the humidity temperature and even the air itself. Mana. Stones are extremely rare in nature, and the likelihood of a commoner possessing one is extremely low. Even if a country's leader or aristocrat were to obtain a mana stone, they would only be able to afford to use it for military purposes. And the girl only uses it to regulate the temperature. Well, that's the conclusion he can draw from her facial expression. The young lady at this time asks to convey her gratitude to the Grand Duke for the fact that her clients will be able to try on clothes in a room with an ideal temperature. She also claims that she showed him her store to prove that she was capable of running her own trade association. And this store will become the cornerstone of her association, and she hopes that Kahin will give the answer she is hoping for. The guy replies that it goes without saying, after which he asks if they are finished for the day and if he can go and meet his sister. Well, the young lady replies that Betty is not me, and his son Abel still needs help, because there is one problem. A short time later, one of the servants greets Sir Kahin. He claims to be a translator from the Baron Trade Association. Mr. Baron asked him to be present at his meeting with his sister today. He also wonders where they intend to go, but Kahin takes out his sword, after which he attaches him to this service and says that there is no need for him to be there. After all, he asked to be alone with his sister S. Luger, then says that he was told that this sir is not very familiar with the Empire and needs a guide. The man claims that he can handle a walk around the city on his own. He also thanks them but advises them to get lost if they value their lives. After which the guy runs away and says he understands. The Duke and the main character watch this. The man seeing the servant running away says that the horizon is clear so they can go. The young lady thanks him and says that she knows what a busy man he is, but she really appreciates that he finds time to help her. The guy then says that, frankly speaking, he was surprised, and the young lady is a little surprised. The brunette insists he couldn't even imagine her using mana stones like that. The protagonist simply smiles and asks if it's unexpected. She also hopes he's not angry that she used the Grand Duke's mana stones for the clothing store, and the brunette claims that thanks to her he learned about a new way to use mana stones. The blonde is a little surprised and asks if this is true, to which he replies that yes, and he also only saw how they are used to take human lives. Well, Her Highness used them to make people's lives a little better, and in fact, he wanted to thank her for not staining those mana stones with red liquid. The main character then says that Hertz is an incredible person, and his appearance, voice, as well as the way he behaves, speaks, and even thinks. All this is simply wonderful. The young man then becomes embarrassed and asks if most people really say things like that to his face. But the young lady insists that he'll probably understand that she's not one of them. The young man meanwhile simply asks for his forgiveness and insists that he needs to deliver her petition to the Grand Duke. As the boy leaves, Kahin addresses the young lady. The young lady turns around and sees him with his sister, after which the young man with blonde hair says that Hertz was red as a tomato and asks what happened, to which the girl replies that nothing at all. Arabelle then asks what the lady is doing there, but the main character only apologizes, but claims that there is no time to explain. She also asks if she's familiar with a restaurant called the Nymph's Hideout. The girl replies that she's never heard of it. Ignette claims this is the place where caste secretly conducts business with its most important clients. They can't even imagine what goes on behind closed doors. but it's highly suspicious that they operate only on a reservation basis. And besides, everyone who visited this establishment entered into contracts with caste, which is why the girl claims that she wants to reveal caste's secret connected with this restaurant and save Lady Arabelle. But for this, she'll need her help. The woman then asks if the girl's name is Ignette, and whether she was at yesterday's party. The girl also claims that Lady Ignette can't even imagine how much she dreamed about it. To return to Kahin after she arrived in the Empire, well, she knew that nothing would work out for her. So she gave in. The guy then cries out, "How could sister do that?" But she just continues her story, and she claims that when she saw the lady that day with Kahin, she realized for the first time that there was someone who wanted to help her. So she agrees and will do whatever it takes. The main character says it's a wonderful choice, after which he suggests they leave and claims a carriage is waiting for them. A short time later, they are already beneath the restaurant. Afterwards, they enter. The worker apologizes but says that the nymph's refuge is accessible only by reservation. And today, they are not expecting guests, so the guy asks if they could leave the building. But the main character is only interested in whether the restaurant owner also needs to make a reservation. And the owner of the trade association came to inspect her establishment. The guy then asks, surprised, if she's really the owner and mistress. But then he sees the ring and realizes that it is the signet ring of the Baron family. And he thinks that he really heard that the owner is from the East, after which he immediately bows and cries out, asking to accept his sincere apologies. He also wonders if this girl is really alone, and also says that if she had notified him in advance, he would undoubtedly have provided her with better conditions. The main character says that everything is fine because they were nearby, and Lady Arabelle expressed a desire to inspect the restaurant. Lord Caste, of course, values his wife very much, but she cannot stay away from the family business affairs as the owner, and she also feels responsible. The guy then says that it is clear, but nevertheless, asserts that he hopes Ma'am understands that some difficulties may arise with strangers. After this, the main character, with a smile on her face, asks if he doesn't understand, because this young man next to the lady is her bodyguard, whom she brought with her from the East. She in turn is her personal servant, and Lord Caste personally chose her to help the mistress with the super scene. So they are not strangers. After all, who is who, but they are definitely part of a trade association, after which the girl asks if he is ready for the consequences of his refusal, after which the guy says that the meme is right, and it is his mistake. He also asks them to move on, and the main character understands that so far everything is exactly as she expected. No one in the association knows what Arabelle looks like, which means she really was kept locked up all this time, was mocking her in every possible way, skillfully disguising it as help. This friend didn't even bat an eye when two women and a foreigner entered, but upon learning of their status, he immediately changed his attitude towards them. Therefore, the girl understands that she will reveal all the evil that happened under this roof, no matter what the cost. A little while later, the guy shows the kitchen and claims that, as he mentioned earlier, there were no visits planned for today, so he is afraid that he is the only worker there. But they always strive to ensure that their guests receive the highest level of service in a safe environment. Afterwards, he hears Arabelle say something in a foreign language, and their main character responds. The guy wonders if something is wrong. The main character asks if he's testing his mistress. The young man is surprised. Ignette says she can't believe he saw the ring and still has doubts. But otherwise, he wouldn't have shown them the empty kitchen, since he himself knows that's not why they came there, to which the boys reply, "Of course not. He was just about to show them the goods." He also thought the lady would be interested in all the details of the restaurant, so he decided to show her the kitchen. The girl realized that everything was as she thought. Meanwhile, the guy asked her to follow him. In her past life, when she worked for caste, any drop in income would lead to punishment, and it was corporal punishment, and once the man locked her up for 3 days without food or water, and this happened too often, that she had no choice but to get involved in their dirty, immoral dealings simply to survive. So the young lady thought that whatever she saw there today, she wouldn't be surprised. At this time, the guy claims that all the goods are stored there to avoid any damage, after which he opens the door to the room and asks what the young lady thinks, since the goods are stored there in impeccable conditions. At this time, the main character looks at the people in the cages and thinks what he is talking about, because there are young girls sitting there practically without clothes, and the young lady wonders if this is really the so-called entertainment. Here Abel then immediately joins in somewhere. The girl is surprised after this and looks at the worker, who begins to suspect something, after which she screams from there that the conditions are simply terrible, and they ask if they really don't call these safe conditions. They should be ashamed to show this disgrace. Madam, what if they caught some kind of infection from these girls? The worker replies that he apologizes, and the girl goes after Abel and cries out that if by their next visit the conditions become better, then let them be sure that Lord Keith will get up about everything, to which the guy replies that he understands. And the main character moves on when she goes outside. She sees Abel. The girl cries and claims it's monstrous and disgusting. After all, he's been making money off women's bodies all this time, and he literally bought her to use as his personal punching bag. All the money he earned in the East with her help was only so that he could invest it in this business. But even her brother almost got caught in the crossfire, and the worst thing about all this is that she knows everything. But she can't do anything and feels no hope. The main character then hugs the girl and claims she feels the same way. After all, she is so angry, confused, and indignant, and so wants to ask forgiveness from everyone she was unable to help. After which the young lady offers to fix all of this. Everyone who used them will pay for it, and everyone who suffered will have their lives restored just like them. The blue-haired boy approaches the gentleman and claims that he has studied the Grand Duchess's past as he ordered. Few people know this now, but 15 years ago, rumours were rampant. The Duchess is believed to have given birth to a child, although no one remembers her being pregnant. And besides, they had a 3-year-old. However, they suddenly announced the existence of a 4-year-old girl, allegedly their first child. Brunette says these are quite serious accusations and wonders why no one is talking about them now. The servant replies that initially many assumed that Her Highness was not the Duke and Duchess's biological daughter. However, they stated that it took them 4 years to officially introduce the girl because her health was poor and they were unsure whether she would survive. This explanation quickly quelled all rumours. The Duke then says that he understands and says that that's all, after which the guy asks if he can do anything for the gentleman more. He could have assigned someone to Her Highness to dispel another rumour, but the man replies that there's no need and asks why he's so fixated on his wife's personal affairs. The guy with blue hair replies that, of course, it was pure curiosity, and it was obvious that the Duke had fallen for her. So who wouldn't want to know what kind of woman she is? A short time later, the Duke is left alone in the tent, and he wonders what his servant is even talking about. Darren then tells him to drop it, as if the guy himself didn't know about it. After all, he fell in love with this girl. The Duke then wonders if he really did, but the sword insists that there's simply no other explanation for why he's always at the edge for her, given his busy schedule. Not to mention his gift, after which he also asks what about the name, because it is very consonant with the heart. But the Duke says that the sword shouldn't make him laugh, because he's only interested in the girl because Darren can't read her thoughts. And besides, she's faithful to him, so he's fulfilling his marital duties. The guy understands that he must do this and is even obliged to, because he has already had enough of unrequited love, and it will be better for both of them until he can break the bonds that bind them. After all, he can't afford to love. A short time later, the main character rides with Kahan and Abel in a carriage, and says that it's good they managed to learn the true purpose of this place, but there's nothing they can do about it right now. The guy then asks why, and the young lady replies that technically prostitution isn't prohibited by imperial law. Precedent-based cases involving it were considered such. only because the accused improperly registered their businesses. Or maybe they found evidence of human trafficking and the like during the actual operations. If they report Cast right now, he'll definitely be held accountable for the right reasons and get off with a slap on the wrist or a small fine at most. But Kahin claims that there are victims and their testimonies, after which they ask whether this is not enough. The young lady replies that she's sorry to say this, but it's unlikely any of them will speak out because it doesn't matter what they wanted. In people's eyes, the blame will always lie with the victims. They'll say the victims are to blame for their own debauchery, and they'll say they're tainted and now completely useless. Even if they manage to get out of this, it's unlikely they'll ever find another job. The girl understands that unless her trade association is at a stage where it can hire them or she's living in the principality by then, to be able to provide them with protection, but who knows how long that will take. Meanwhile, the guy offers to at least help them escape. And the blonde says that this will only be a temporary solution, because when the establishment realizes what happened, they will immediately contact Cast, thus giving them the opportunity to get rid of all the evidence. The best and safest option now is to wait until Cast can't escape the consequences and then strike him. For now, they need to tie Cast's hands and feet. The guy then agrees, but says that it seems they are already there, after which he suggests meeting tomorrow at the same time, to which the young lady agrees and says goodbye to them. But she still understands that first of all she needs to be sure of something, but she wonders if she will regret the truth she learns and whether it will hurt her even more deeply. She realizes that she is afraid, but she can't avoid her any longer. A little while later, the girl heads off somewhere, but at that very moment someone turns to her and asks where she's going at such a late hour. It turns out to be a knight, and the young lady first looks at him with confusion, but then claims that she needs to go somewhere. The guy claims that in this case he will bring Lena, but the young lady screams that it is impossible, after which Girk claims that it is too dangerous to walk alone, after which the main character says that Sir Girk should show her. She also thinks Lena shouldn't be taken along because it would hurt her. The guy then says he understands, but the main character thinks the maid was put into eternal sleep because of her, so she doesn't want her to get hurt again. Meanwhile, in the trading house, Isaac is giving orders. He tells the workers what to do, but then he sees Her Highness causing the protagonist to say he's early. The guy replies that of course, since the store's opening is just around the corner, and he's interested in how he can help Her Highness. The girl says she has a favor to ask of him, after which he says he'll do anything. The young lady mentions his family's business, and he asks if they provided intelligence gathering services. The guy says yes, and that's true, after which he asks how the lady found out. The girl replies that she simply guessed, and believes that his name and family prestige would have provided him with such abilities. She also asks if she can ask for his help, since there is still. There's something she needs to know. The guy then says that he would be glad to, but Calvain was responsible for all of this, after plunging his family members into eternal sleep. He felt guilty for falling into the trap of those who sold him false information and quickly resigned. The young lady says it doesn't matter and they should try something. The guy then says that if that's what she wants, he'll tell her where he is now. The man is mopping the floors when he hears someone knocking on the door. He opens it and sees the main character inside. She asks if he's Calvain, and she thinks Isaac told him about her. The man is simply surprised, then bows and apologizes for not coming to greet her personally. He also thanks Her Highness for helping Isaac get back on his feet by offering him a job. The girl then leans over to the man and asks him to rise as she came to ask for his help. Calvain asks if she really needs help, to which the girl replies yes, after which she claims that she wants him to find her biological parents. The Duke at this time greets his dear son and spreads his arms for an embrace, but the guy just passes by him, after which the man asks if he will really fall into eternal sleep if he shows at least once how much he loves his old man. The young man replies that no, and that will not happen because he simply finds strange his impulse to hug his now grown-up son every time they meet. The man then sits down at the table and asks if showing affection for his son is now inappropriate, but the boy insists that he sometimes goes too far. The man merely snorts and says he'll tell him something, after which he claims that when a parent doesn't love their child enough, it's a problem, but not for any child. Too much love hasn't done any harm yet. The guy then thinks about these words, and he realizes he should have realized it the moment he saw the Duchess's behavior on her wedding day. Then perhaps he wouldn't have pretended to be trusted for so long. The young man then turns to his father and declares that he would like to speak with him about the Grand Duchess. The man asks why he needs this, and the scoundrel Luther seems not to have intended to send her out of his estate. The boy then wonders if his father has been reading his letters again, to which his father merely turns away. The Duke then tells his father that he regularly sends Cain there and is often there himself. So he thought they'd already discussed it. The man merely smiles and offers him something to eat, as it's his favourite food. The boy simply asks if he's responded to the Duke's letter. The boy's father says he might have responded if it had been about a divorce, but he asked for money, so why bother responding? And if this man is so greedy, he's afraid to even imagine what his daughter is like. But the guy claims she's his opposite, after which the man wonders if Heinz has ever seen her, to which the guy replies that yes, that's just how it happened. He's going to bring her back from there, somehow, even despite her father's demands, and he shouldn't judge the girl, even without meeting her in person, because she'll disprove all her fears. He's absolutely certain of that. Heinz also says that even though the emperor arranged this wedding, it doesn't change the fact that she is now officially Ascalon and they can't leave her there forever. The man says his son is right, but then tries to add something else. The boy simply points to one of the dishes and says it's one of his favorites, so he's asking his father for it. The man is surprised by this, after which everyone says he thought he wouldn't live to see this day. Meanwhile, the main character says she wants to know who her biological parents are, and if they live there where they live, and also how she ended up under the wing of the Herky family, so let them find out as much as they can. The man then asks Her Highness to allow him to clarify something as he retired from business many years ago. The girl says that yes, Isaac told her about it, after which the man says that she now knows that what happened was due to his incompetence, and that he has no right to accept her request, and with all due respect, does not want to fulfill it either. But the girl wonders if he doesn't want it, even if she says the reward is the dissolution of the Bar and Trade Association. She also tells him to accept the request because at the very least he'll be able to get revenge on them. The girl also claims to have information capable of destroying Castor Baron, the leader of the Bar and Trade Association. His wife and her testimony are on her side. After which the young lady asserts that she can give him her word to the Grand Duchess. She then gives her word that Cast Baron and the Bar and Trade Association will receive their just deserts for the destruction of their home which they achieved illegally. The girl also says that if he still doesn't believe her, he can start an investigation after he receives his reward. However, she hopes that he will take into account the fact that Isaac, who lost his entire family, the child did not give up hope and stood firmly on his feet, after which she also asked how long he was going to remain on his knees. The man then rises and declares his acceptance of her request. A short time later, the protagonist is already heading off in a carriage, and the knight asks how long she's known about this. The girl replies that, recently, after which the man asks if she's okay. Ignet. She understands that 4 days have passed and she is already feeling much better, after which she says that if she thinks about it, then yes, she thinks that she is fine. The guy claims it's good, but the young lady thinks he's very surprised. The knight then claims she's changed a lot since she got married. Before, it felt like she was just watching from the sidelines, but now her gaze is directed elsewhere. The protagonist thinks the knight has been watching over her all this time, after which she wonders if he did it out of loyalty or if there was something else behind it. The guy at this point insists that they are there, and the main character tells her that David has to see someone today, so she asks if Sir Gurk will wait her in the carriage, to which he replies, "Of course." And when the young lady is about to get out of the carriage, he says regarding the name of her shop, "What does she think about Nettie?" The young lady asks what that means, after which the guy says it's short for Ignat. The girl then, with a smile on her face, says that's clear, and that's not bad. She's cute and also easy to remember. The girl thanks the knight and says that she will think about it, after which she closes the carriage door. As the young lady continues on, she sees Hertz standing before her. She inquires how everything went and whether the Grand Duke has agreed. The guy replies that he thinks the young lady's offer is excellent, after which he hands her a bag of money. The girl then, in shock, asks if this is really true, to which Hertz answers that 10% of income goes to the social welfare of the empire and the employment of the empire's merchants for trade with the East. The proposal envisaged not only the enrichment of the trading association, but also the development of the empire as a whole. Therefore, any husband, upon learning of his wife's plans, would want to see what she ultimately achieves. The young lady then, with a smile on her face, says she's so glad he liked her. The brunette insists he's not surprised at all, and the Duke also gave her this. The young lady wonders what it means, after which the guy pulls out a letter, and the main character reads it. It says that sometimes their feelings are hurt by things beyond their control, and that only in a perfect world would such a thing ever happen. In the real world, they often expect a reward for their perseverance, and he won't bother her or console her. Seeing the great goal she set for herself, he's confident she'll easily achieve everything she strives for. He only wants her to receive a reward worthy of all the pain and suffering she has gone through. After Togo, the main character begins to cry and the Duke is surprised. The young lady then apologizes and says she simply didn't expect such a touching letter. Hertz is embarrassed by this and says it's just a silly letter and there's nothing special about it. But the girl insists she doesn't think he'll understand. After all, he's still single and this is a family matter. The guy then apologizes and asks her what she was talking about. Akahin, he claims that he's there too, so let her speak in a language they can all understand. After which the young lady apologizes and claims to have read the letter her husband delivered. The guy with blonde hair wonders if he sent a letter instead of telling everything in person, after which everyone asks him if he is also a bad guy like Kask. The young lady replies that it's not at all, but that she's simply never seen his face before. And because of that, Hertz has to work overtime. The blonde man then asks, shocked, what about the attacks and whether she hasn't seen her own husband? The girl replies that at the moment her husband is participating in a military campaign by order of the emperor, and they had a wedding ceremony, but that's all. Kahin then asks hopefully, is that so? The Duke immediately interrupts him and says that whatever may cloud his mind, he advises him to clear it. The blonde guy asks who he is to tell him what to do. Bruna then starts to tell him who he is, but Kahin shuts him down and says he's just a trusted, nameless man who serves Ignat as a substitute for her husband. So they're not in such different situations. Well, at least they're different. After all, he and Ignat will work together, which means they'll see each other often. But in his case, if Ignat and her husband divorce, he'll remain a nobody. The brunette then furiously asks what he just said. But the main character stops the two and says they're arguing like foolish boys right outside her store. She'd really like them to stop ruining the image of her store, which hasn't even opened yet. The girl approaches the blonde guy and claims that divorce is a personal matter between the husband and wife. So as a third party, he has no right to discuss it so openly. The guy then apologizes, but then someone else addresses Her Highness. The girl says that it's a wonderful lady, Lisa, who has come. Her husband, meanwhile, asks if there's really a man next to her. The young lady replies that this is true and suggests they talk inside. A short time later they enter, and the protagonist thanks them for arriving so quickly. The woman insists there's nothing to thank them for, as they're only happy to see her. The young lady insists she invited them because she wanted to say something, after which she asks Polkins to leave his post in the Baron Trade Association because the trade association will soon meet its end. The girl claims that she is grateful to Lady Lisa for many things and that she was the only one who showed concern when she learned that she was visiting the temple alone, and thanks to her, the girl began to translate Eastern texts. So she wants to repay her for her generosity and tells them to leave the association and instead sign a contract with another trade association, the one that belongs to her. Afterwards, the girl points to one of the dolls and asks if he can see them. The man replies that of course he can and that he's never seen anything so beautiful. Ignat says that if he leaves Baron and goes over to her, then she will have the right to sell miniature versions of these dolls for the next 3 years. The man is then surprised and asks if Her Highness is serious, since such detailed dolls of such beauty will become a real hit among the children of aristocrats, and he wonders if she will allow him to sell them. The young lady then points to the guy with blonde hair and asks if he remembers this man, since he is the lady's younger brother, Arbel, the mistress of the Baron Trade Association. Thanks to Lady and Lisa, she was able to work as a translator during their meeting with Lady Arbel, and eventually learned that Baron involved in various illegal activities. Everyone in this room is working together to expose their actions, and so she begs them to leave Baron. They are prepared to pay any fines if any problems arise. The man then tells Her Highness that there is no need because the trade association has always sought to achieve monopoly status by acquiring small businesses, which has led to irreparable damage to any competition. There have always been rumours surrounding the association that it resorted to immoral methods to achieve its goals. But he knew how hard it would be to make a living if he left the association, so he decided not to believe the rumours. But if the owner's brother intervened, then he could no longer turn a blind eye to everything. And in fact, he is glad that everything turned out exactly this way, and will trust the lady and will also leave the trade association without regrets and pay all the fines himself. The main character is a little surprised and realizes that she included Pokin's sanctions in her expenses. Well, if he pays them himself, it means that she has a little extra money and she can use it for their next step. After which, the young lady, with a smile on her face, says that this is wonderful and asks for the signed documents to be taken to the second floor. Lady Lisa also thanks Her Highness. The main character then turns to Kahin and asks if he's ready for the next step. Brene then asks if the lady is planning to leave with him, to which the girl replies that of course Hertz knows that Kahin cannot independently conduct a conversation with people, and he needs a translator, after which the brunette says that in that case he will go, and the main character asks if he is really going to go. The girl also understands that she would be grateful, but is this a good idea and will they get along? Afterwards they enter the room to sign the contract, and the blonde guy yells at him to sign the document immediately. The brunette merely translates this with a smile on his face. His interlocutor at this time says that he is the brother-in-law of the Baron Trade Association, so how can he behave like this? But when he picks up the contract and reads it, he is surprised and cries out that this is a form of agreement to cancel the contract and he cannot sign it. After which the guy also cries out whether they even realize the price he will have to pay. But Kahin, he claims that if he doesn't want to lose 2 limbs, he'll sign the contract immediately. The man then claims that even if they wanted to, they wouldn't be able to pay the fines because they don't have that kind of money. But the brunette insists they were just bragging about getting a sizable sum of money from this deal, and now they're claiming they can't afford this contract. The blonde then asks if they understand that the well-being of so many people depends on this contract, and he's a victim too. They suggested her services, and he agreed, but these people used this against him, accusing him of using the services of a kidnapped woman. He claims these people said they'd report him to the police and that if he didn't sign the contract, they'd set him up. The blonde guy, meanwhile, says he's just as much trash as the rest. The Duke says Kahin is so quiet and that it's not like him, but then the sword tells the Duke to help this guy, as his mind is clouded by rage at the thought of what his sister had to endure. He tries his best to hold back, after which the sword also quotes the guy's thoughts on whether this devil touched his sister and whether it will affect his sister if they continue to dig under him. The sword says that this guy is terrified, and the Duke thinks why they are dragging their feet on this, after which he says that it is enough and let him sign the document right now, because they will lend him money if he really needs it. But of course he'll have to pay it back with interest. The guy then cries out, wondering how he'll ever make any money. But the Duke replies that it's not his problem, because if he were in his place, he would accept the offer, because that's the only way he'll stay alive. The guy then asks what that means, and the Duke claims that he will reveal a little secret to him, and soon Cast will be summoned to court, and everyone who is in any way connected with him will face punishment, including, of course, him. So if the guy wants even the slightest chance of getting his sentence mitigated, he needs to immediately cut all ties with the association, step away from the witness stand, and try to pretend he regrets what he did. The blonde then asks if they really want him to confess directly, after which he says that he can't. But the Duke, with a smile on his face, says that of course he can. If not, his arms might stay in place, but he'll lose his head. A short time later, the two are already heading off in a carriage. The Duke then turns to his interlocutor and states that they have one more stop, after which Kahin answers yes, but the brunette asks what's wrong with his face, after which the guy with blonde hair gets a little embarrassed and claims that he simply didn't think that Hertz would intervene in the conversation and thanks him. The main character stands on the balcony at this time, wondering if Hertz will come today. She also thinks that the guy hasn't come in a while, so there's no one to even talk to. But he is probably very busy, so you can't rely on him so much. But at that very moment, the young lady crashes into something. It turns out it's that same guy, and she asks how long he's been standing there. The young man replies that he just arrived and was just about to inform her. He also asks if now is a good time to visit her. The young lady becomes embarrassed but says, "Of course," and he asks how everything went, with Kahin Renat tells her not to worry, because everything went swimmingly and it's safe to say they've already set all the traps for the association. He tells her to focus on her other responsibilities, so he's sure she's very busy. Well, he also says he should apologize, because he's afraid he won't be able to come to the store opening. The main character says it's all fine, because after all, he doesn't have to. The guy then hands over a box with something and claims that he has a gift for the lady, but she replies that it wasn't worth it. After which, the brunette says it's a gift from him personally right now. The young lady then says that's understandable, but thinks he's talking strangely. After which, the main character opens this box and, in shock, says that this message is the seal of the Ascalon family. The guy then smiles and says that he hopes she likes it too, which the girl replies that of course it is and that it is wonderful. But she also says that she thought she needed her family's approval to use the seal, to which the guy replies that of course she already has approval. The girl says that it is clear and also thinks that this seal is beautiful. But what is more important is that its appearance suggests that the Grand Duke has recognized her as his wife. None of her husbands from her past life had ever done anything like this. The guy asks if the young lady is okay, after which she shudders. Well, she still says she's just worried about Lady Arbel, because if Cast takes out his anger on her, then Renat says she'll be fine, and also that the deal with Kahin is still pending, so as long as things stand like this, he won't touch her, which the protagonist says she hopes will happen. She also understands that as long as Cast needs Arbel, she should be fine. The man at this point cries out, "Can't the servant do anything right?" And as if it weren't enough that the association's reputation was tarnished by these ridiculous accusations that they were running brothels, and now these idiots are trying to cancel the deals, afraid that their names will also be tarnished. Then he asks who the hell is spreading these rumors, eh? One of the servants claims that the damage is still not great and they all pay fines. But after this, Cast only gets angry, after which everyone throws something at the servant and says, What an idiot he is, and doesn't he understand that the fines are one time? The servant then apologizes to him, and Cast tells him to try to bribe the police. If only the captain weren't so stubborn. And those already under their thumb keep whining and whining about how it's not enough for them to have to deal with the new bosses, and who would have thought that Abel would be the least of their problems? While they're waving divorce papers in his face, that brother of hers will pay them more anyway. After which, he orders the girl to be brought immediately. A short time later, a servant combs the lady's hair. He also remembers how Cass talked about bringing Abel to him, and also said that they changed the conditions without any notice, so they would be ready to give them anything. And until then, he agreed to a divorce. At the same moment, the man pulls the girl by the hair and asks if she dares to try to escape from him. But they couldn't leave her alone with her idiot brother. After which he asks what they told her that made her so suddenly want a divorce. And this Cast is completely useless. He knows and has no idea what he has to go through to endure her. The girl doesn't understand everything he's telling her now, but she's lived there long enough to understand. For example, his obsession with her. The man is now screaming that she is his toy, and where else can he find such a perfect doll like her? The girl sees it in his gaze, in dirty touches, in all sorts of physical violence, and in her husband's orders. Well, she's so tired of it that she thinks how she'd like to escape from it all. But for Kahin's sake, and for those girls' sake, and for Lady Ignet's, who could look away but didn't and decided to help her so she won't run away. A little while later, the man asks what the girl said, but the blonde woman says he heard her and she won't divorce him. Meanwhile, a lady on the shopping street says the store is finally opening. Another woman also says she heard they've removed all the barriers and put up a sign. But who knew such beauty was hidden behind those fences? Another lady asks what her friend thinks, and this is one of those shops that starts out so mysterious, but ends up being nothing special. At that moment, the door to the store opens and Isaac welcomes them to the clothing store, called Natty. The crowds all saw her, including the maid and the main character. She turns to Milady and tells her to just take a look. The main character realizes that she has managed to arouse enough interest in these people to show up for the opening, and now she needs to make sure they want to stay. When one of the ladies enters, she claims the air is completely different, and she feels like she can try on clothes as much as she wants. The young lady realizes she's ready for this and has mana stones that create a pleasant atmosphere. There's something other stores can't, and also unique and realistic mannequins. So all this is simply bound to attract clients to them. One of them says that these mannequins look like ordinary people, and the main character understands that the most important task is to make customers want to buy. One of the customers realizes she only came there because she was asked to, but surely this store is also only for skinny girls. The main character understands that it is important for mannequins to attract attention with their beauty, but it's equally important to provide a wide selection so customers can easily and confidently choose the dress that's right for them. After which, the girl asks if she can try on the dress, to which one of the workers says, of course. Ignet understands that she wants to help everyone find their beauty regardless of weight or age. One of the ladies also says that her daughter liked this mannequin and is wondering if it is possible to buy a similar doll. Another of the girls asks how much this dress costs, but Isaac replies, "Ma'am, that this dress is for one special event. Therefore, it is currently not for sale." Over the next 3 days, when she purchases a dress in their store, she will receive lottery tickets for each dress, which will allow her to purchase that dress. Your name on the ticket and place it in the box by the front door. After which, in 4 days, the name of the lucky lady who will be able to purchase this dress will be announced. The main character wonders if they shouldn't give the dress away instead of forcing the client to pay for it. And a simple store, appealing to the masses, would probably do the same, but she is dealing with high society. No matter how beautiful the clothes are, the moment they are given away for free, they lose their value. The guy insists there are no restrictions on lottery tickets, with their name on them, and the higher the price, the more exclusive the item. After that, the ladies immediately start asking about prices and how many tickets this or that dress will give them. The main character observing this understands that the sooner her store will be recognized as worthy of attention. The red-haired lady says the dresses are gorgeous and she'll throw in all 5 tickets. The protagonist realizes it's her sister after all, and she should have guessed the girl would show up too. She then turns to her maid and suggests they go. She also understands that she is convinced that the opening was a success. But when the young lady leaves the store, he sees a worried Kahin there. The guy apologizes for coming unannounced and claims he didn't know who to turn to for help. A little while later, they are heading in a carriage, and the young lady remembers telling him that everything is fine. So let him breathe and tell her everything. The guy then claimed that he was heading to a business meeting with Cast, scheduled for today, but he only told him that there would be no divorce. He also didn't allow him to see his sister and literally kicked him out, so he doesn't know what to do if something happens to Abel. The girl understands that this is a change they weren't prepared for. She thought that Cast would feel cornered and accept Kahin's offer. But if his plan was to blackmail him into getting a bigger profit in exchange for a divorce, he wouldn't have kicked Kahin out. That's why the main character thinks, is it really with Abel? Something happened, and is this really the same as in her past life? After which, the main character feels very bad, and the maid, in shock, turns to her asking if she is okay. The girl replies that yes, and everything is fine because it's all just stress. The young lady thinks everything is fine because she is the Grand Duchess of Ascalon, and Cast won't touch her. Abel and see if he's okay. The girl also recalls how the brunette said he was afraid he wouldn't be able to come to the store opening, but he had a gift for her. Now she wonders if he is busy hurts and what he's doing. The guy is in front of the emperor at this time, and he bows and also claims that he has come to ask for an audience with His Majesty, King Alakazar, the blazing sun of their empire. His Majesty then says they haven't seen each other for a long time. The empire and the principality have long had the same tradition. After the heir turns 7 years old, he is sent to the capital until he comes of age. His father always insisted that the boy not reveal his abilities to the emperor, but it was not the emperor he should be wary of. He had to be wary of the crown prince, who was 19 years old at the time. Now the blonde just tells the guy to come over, after which he does, so His Majesty asks if they will cross the line, to which the Duke replies that of course they will. The blonde also tells the guy to inform him of the progress in the Black Forest, and whether he knows that in his place, with his magic, he would have finished everything a long time ago. So he wonders why there's still no progress with him, a master swordsman. The brunette then sincerely apologizes for not living up to expectations, but he assures him that he works hard day and night, but there are too many monsters. The emperor says it's sad, then asks if he's sure that's the reason, and not because he's surrounded by lazy people who don't respect the chain of command. The Duke answers His Majesty that it is not at all, and the blonde says that he is glad to hear it, but still he gave him permission to get rid of everyone who is dragging them down, and anyone can be replaced, after which he says that he is just joking, but then says that he heard that the Duke sent an attorney to his wedding. Biarunet replies that yes, and he was too busy with the process, so he couldn't come in person, but the emperor asks if that's really the case. And also, did this have anything to do with the fact that he wanted nothing to do with the marriage he had arranged for him? The Duke replied to His Majesty that of course not, and that he wouldn't dare, after which the emperor demanded he prove it. The brunette asks what His Majesty wants him to do, but he says that he believes their children will serve as the best proof. Let them have a child and send him to the palace, and he will raise him with the same care and love with which he raised him. After which the blonde laughs and says that it's just a pity that children don't appear in one day, after which he asks what he should do with the Duke in the meantime. Then he comes up with something and claims he'll throw a party at their unit and hopes they'll show up to hold hands. Brunette says he can't express his gratitude in words, but the emperor says that as befits him, He'll provide him with a portal so he can return home. A little while later, the Duke finds himself in his room and Darren says that he would say the conversation went relatively well. The brunette claims that at least this time no one fell into eternal sleep. He also understands that one thing needs to be clarified. At the time, he held no ill will toward him. The Emperor treated him the way children treat animals, and the boy remembers how the prince treated him, after which he asked why he was not moving. But when the guy wanted to get up, His Highness said that he was still alive. And it's also surprising, the prince had a naive and inquisitive mind, and of course that's precisely what made the situation worse. Now, the Duke insists they need to return as soon as possible, and his bull says they're now publicly declaring their misses. The Duke is only interested in what he is carrying. Well, Darren, he claims that he can ask him the same thing and that it means he needs to return as soon as possible. The sword says the word return implies returning home to where one belongs, but the boy replies that's not what he meant. After which he claims this woman can't sit still and he's uneasy, thinking about what else she might do if he leaves her alone. Meanwhile, Darren wonders when the guy will finally confess. After which he also tells him to be careful, because even far from Nienor, he can be recognized, to which the guy replies that he knows. And the sword says that it seems the young lady's shop is a success and everyone looks happy. The brunette says yes, and he figured it out without Darren's words. But he still wonders where the lady herself is. The main character is at the Custer estate at this time. The man claims he can't believe they haven't seen each other since the party with Her Highness. After which he asks if she really wanted to see him. The girl replies that she did and is glad to see him. The man merely asks if she didn't like the cookies they served her. Ignette. She replies that it's not at all, that she was simply enchanted by the decor of their home and completely forgot herself. The man then thanks the lady for her kind words, and the main character wonders if he really expected her to fall for the same trick twice. Cast asks what brought the lady there, and he replies that she intends to sell something but only knows his trade association. She also thinks that when there were a lot of people around, she was fine. But when she meets him face to face, she begins to feel nauseous. The man then says that it's understandable, and in that case, she made an excellent decision because he dares to declare that his trade association is the best in the empire. At this time, the girl begins to hear servants running away from him and feels a red liquid on her tongue and also cannot breathe. Cast asks her what she wants to sell. The girl realizes her vision is obscured by his terrifying smile, and that this is the last thing she sees before falling into eternal sleep. At least now she has someone to protect her. After which the main character turns to the maid and tells her to show him, after which the maid opens the box. And the man sees a doll there, but the main character takes it out of the box and then begins to move her limbs and claims that this is not just a doll, because she can move each of her limbs just like a person. The man then states that he admits that it is beautiful, but the quality is inferior to other products that his association sells, and he doesn't want to offend Her Highness, but dolls are usually perceived as nothing more than children's toys. The main character asks if this is true, but she also understands that this guy is lying, as it's written all over his face that he wants to squeeze more out of her, after which the young lady says that in that case she apologizes for wasting his time with a third-rate product, and also hopes that she can find another trading associations. The man then tells her to wait because he hadn't spoken yet, and he was about to say that his association could turn even a child's toy into a valuable and desirable commodity. Ignette asks if this is true, to which the man replies yes and offers to discuss their contract. But the woman says she'll do it on one condition, after which she asks if he will call Lady Arbel. The girl wonders how he can handle that, after which she says she came there because she wanted to do business with her. She also wonders if the man really is the savvy businessman. He thinks he is, he'll cancel their deal. The main character then says that her beautiful, long, flowing locks and piercing eyes, as well as her elegant demeanor, suit her perfectly. So seeing her at the party, she was simply shocked. The man says it's true and his wife is quite beautiful, and the young lady claims that ever since then she has been trying to find a way to meet her again, and when she saw these dolls, she came up with the idea of working with her as a business partner. After which, the man smiles and says that he understands, but unfortunately, at the moment his wife is not feeling well and is receiving the necessary help. He also wonders why the lady doesn't tell him everything, and then he'll pass it on to his wife. The young lady understands that he made up this excuse because he doesn't want the girl to interact with anyone, or because she's not there right now. After which she understands what she needs to know, but still claims that since she cannot talk to the lady, then perhaps she will go. But the man merely yells at her to wait, then says he'll send her the item as soon as she returns and asks if she agrees. He also invites her to sit down and discuss the details. The main character asks if he promises to, which the man replies that of course because he is a simple merchant and would not dare lie to the Grand Duchess. The girl says that's fine, and in that case, they can discuss the details, to which the man thanks her, and also asks her to tell him about the planned number of dolls produced and the price. Ignette. She replies that she hasn't decided yet, and the man asks for forgiveness, asking what she's talking about. But the lady claims that she does not produce these dolls because they were given to her as a gift, and it seemed to her that they had potential, so she brought them with her. She fulfilled her part of the deal and told him everything she knew, so he deserves it too. After which the main character tells her maid that they will go. The girl understands that she needs to hurry, because thanks to his hope to get information about the dolls, she learned two things. The first thing is that Arbel is not in the estate now, and if she were, the girl is sure that the man would do everything to bring her. The second thing is that Cast is obviously feeling cornered, and the last thing he ever wanted was to bend his knee to someone weaker than him, and yet he showed his desperation to her, that is the young girl. In that case, why would he turn down opportunities to extract more money from Kahin? This can only mean that Arbel's departure wasn't Cast's decision, which means Arbel did something, and if so, why is he so sure he'll get the girl back? The young lady also understands that she has a feeling that the girl is somewhere nearby and he can easily return her, and this in turn means that Arbel did something that he absolutely does not approve of, and as a punishment he sent her away somewhere, to a place that serves as a kind of prison and over which he has complete power, after which the main character remembers that very restaurant and understands that the girl must be there. But she still thinks that this is not good and that they need to speed up the implementation of their plans. The blonde guy asks a little while later if the lady really thinks he's not capable of doing it. The girl tells him to remember their goal because they must check the goods that the Baron Trade Association sent to the palace. While the girl was in the estate, the Sherzog grabbed the guy by the clothes and cried out, did he really let the girl go alone? He swears that he wanted to go with her, but the young lady said that it might look suspicious and strictly forbade her. At that very moment, the main character turned to Hertz, and at that very moment he screamed at her. Also asked how the lady could do something so dangerous without telling him. Ignette. She realizes he called her by name and apologizes for worrying him, but insists she had no choice because she was in a hurry. Kahin asks if his sister is okay. The girl replies that she can't say for sure and asks if they can visit the palace first thing tomorrow. The guy asks if she's talking about the palace. The girl replies that it is extremely unlikely that the court will prosecute Cast if he can help him, and in order to force them to act, it is necessary to directly appeal to the crown, and since he belongs to the nobility of the East, he can receive an audience with the crown's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Now the guy says that he knows, but at that very moment a representative enters the room, and he claims that he is pleased to meet Lord Kahin, and also claims that his name is Count Viante, and that he is a representative of the Crown Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The young man with blonde hair says that he is pleased to meet you, and that his name is Kahin Lynette. The girl next to him is his friend and is there to help him. The young lady claims her name is Ignette Ascalon. The man claims she must be Duke Luther's first daughter, after which he congratulates her on her wedding. The girl thanks him, after which the man claims that the last time he saw her father was at a party, and it is quite obvious how much he cares about her because he was so upset that she could not join the event and said that she did not like the party. So he's overjoyed to finally meet Duke Luther's beloved daughter. The girl thinks he keeps gossiping about her father even though he's an important guest, and he's the kind of guy who prefers to kiss the feet of those he considers influential, and she'll take advantage of that. The man claims that he keeps thinking about when the Duke will honor him with an invitation to his home, but the girl claims that he won't have to guess about it anymore because if everything goes well, today she will personally remind her father to invite him to, which the man thanks her, and he asks to tell him how he can be useful. Kahin claims that he is there for that. To accuse a local businessman of a crime, the man asks if the Sir really wants to sue. After all, he's afraid that such cases are usually handled by the Imperial Police. The girl understands that since they don't know which of Cast's men are working in the departments, it's wisest to cast their net as wide as possible. The young lady then says that it is fine and asks if he will take them to the judicial authority in that case, because as far as she knows, it is he who controls the Imperial Police. And she also asks if the Count should join them because the matter is delicate, so they do not want it to be decided incorrectly. The man tells Her Highness that, of course, and he will ensure that her request is carefully considered, although they rejected it because it was related to a foreigner. The protagonist asks if this is true, and says she will definitely tell her father about his kindness. A little while later, they are already heading to the office, and the girl understands that she will never allow those who allowed themselves to be bribed to hush up this matter. At this time, the man points to the general manager, after which he asks, "What do they owe to Count Vianti?" The man then says that he hopes they are in good health. He also claims to have brought them a foreign guest who wants to press charges. The guy asks if that's really true, after which the man whispers that this is the Duke's eldest daughter and that she recently became the Grand Duchess of Ascalon. The main character realizes that she has heard everything, and after that, the blonde guy turns to her with a smile on his face and asks how he can be of help. The girl points to a blonde-haired boy and claims he's her friend and that he's from the east. Lord Kain has only been in their country for a short time and has already become a victim of fraud. The blonde then asks who could have done such a thing, to which the girl replies that it was Cast Baron from the Baron Trade Association. Kahin claims that a few days ago he purchased several precious stones from this trading association, but upon receiving them he realized that they were of much lower quality than described, after which he also hands over the proof of purchase, and the main character looks at this guy's reaction. The blonde man at this time asks if the lady is sure that the transaction was made between her and the Baron Trade Association. After all, they cannot confirm this with this paper, and he is sure that the lady will not be able to prove the low quality of the precious stones she purchased. So unfortunately, she doesn't have enough evidence to bring charges, and the young lady understands. Baron Trade Association. His colleague asks if they shouldn't at least investigate, and the main character thinks that he is right, especially considering that the request comes from a person of high nobility, because even if there is insufficient evidence, standard procedure dictates that an investigation be launched. The blonde man says that they are well aware that the trade association enjoys the trust of the crown, and the young lady understands that he wants to hush up the matter without even examining it, and is clearly hiding something. The guy also adds that if the emperor finds out about this, a big problem will arise, and it would be best to first contact the trade association directly. Well, the young lady thinks she's even glad he reacted that way, because the paper was just a distraction. They whipped it up before they got there. But the real threat lies elsewhere. The brunette approaches one of the guys and asks what exactly his people are doing. In terms of doing business with the bar and trade associations, the guy replies that they are intermediaries and deliver gold and copper mined in the mines and send it to the jewelry factory of the Bar and Trade Association. Then they make the product they requested from the metals and send it back to the palace. But the brunette thinks that this is nonsense. and the trade association must supply the palace with only gold bars. This guy really does look like a simple middleman who knows nothing about the details of the transaction in the palace. And the brunette informed the young lady that this was indeed how it had been. The girl said that it was clear that something was indeed wrong. But if this is truly a simple transaction, then why offer clients intimate services, and why take such risks and threaten these people? At first glance, it seems like this is just a scam to get as much profit as possible. But perhaps Cast is not trying to achieve this at all, but to create a scapegoat for himself. The girl says that if they had gotten involved in the subcontractor's case instead of taking full responsibility, they could easily have shifted most of the blame. The guy then asked if she meant to say that Baron was committing fraud against the crown, and the young lady replied that she couldn't say for sure, but that was most likely the case. Now, the young lady claims that she has an idea and suggests in this case, check the quality of other goods delivered by the association. The blonde replies that this is not necessary, because all these goods undergo mandatory thorough inspection before being delivered to the palace, and they check the quantity and even the weight. Well, the young lady claims he didn't mention checking the metal's purity. They're not going to investigate the trade association, and they won't check the gold for purity, either, after which she says that the Viscount shouldn't approve. He's still not convinced. The guy is silent for a while after that, and a little while later they find themselves in another room. One of the main ones says that as Her Highness suspected after the ingot was melted by the blacksmith, in an environment they carefully controlled. They discovered a copper impurity weighing about 4 kilograms, as an 11-year-old weighs about 14 kilograms. This means they received approximately 1 whole ingot for every 4 ingots. The blonde says that maybe this only happened with the ingot that they checked, because first they need to check the rest. Well, the main character says that she won't agree, and it would be better for them not to waste any more time. And she wonders if he really needs time to cover up all the evidence. The man then tells her not to joke like that. After all, the head of security will immediately find the swindler responsible for this matter. The young lady understands that he's decided to quickly turn tail in case he gets into trouble, and that's only natural. At this time, the brunette says that they will immediately arrest the head of the trade association, after which the blonde asks for forgiveness and says that he only meant the one who is responsible for the gold. But the brunette replies that this transaction was carried out between the trade association and the crown, so all responsibility lies with the head of the association. The other man then says that he himself could not have said it better, and that such a matter cannot be handled with ceremony. The young lady at this time realizes that this officer seemed to have been just waiting for this opportunity. He may be a witness to the association's fraudulent actions, or have personal scores to settle with Cast, just like she does. Or perhaps he's simply remaining loyal to the crown, but either way, it's to their advantage. However, we can't let our guard down just yet. After all, she is sure that there are still a lot of people like the Viscount, who will do everything to stop them, and perhaps the real battle is just beginning. A little while later, the young lady enters the Duke's carriage, and he asks how everything went. The girl replies that it was successful, and the police will soon arrive at the Custer estate, after which she's wondering where Kahin is. And the girl replies that he is in the judicial department, and they need details of the testimony. She also says that we need to hurry to the nymph's shelter before the word spreads. And the man who works at the restaurant, she is terrified to imagine what he could do to the victims to hide evidence from the police. The Duke claims that he is sure that even among the police there are those whom Cast bribed, and he is interested in whether they do not need to be personally present at the arrest. The girl replies that no, and everyone in the office witnessed this case, and influential but corrupt individuals will never sacrifice themselves. If they do something, the situation will only get worse for them. And besides, the head of the security department seemed to her to be a completely reliable person. But the brunette asks if this isn't the first time you've met him, to which you reply that yes, but time doesn't always matter when it comes to trust. After all, you can spend your whole life with someone without ever knowing their true essence. The brunette is surprised after this, remembering how the young lady's father beat her. So now he just puts his hand on the lady's head, and he claims that she should still be wiser and not trust people so easily. After all, there are many liars in the world. The young lady understands that his huge hand unexpectedly slapping her on the head is a gesture that could easily be considered rude and condescending. The guy at this time believes that everyone has their own reasons, but the young lady interrupts him, and she says she understands and will be careful. The girl understands that this gesture didn't seem that way to her because she realizes that this is the guy's way of showing his sincere concern and concern for her. A little while later, the young lady finds herself near the restaurant and nods towards the Duke, and he knocks down the door, but then he sees the guard lying down and asks what happened there. Looking at him, he claims that it looks like they've cut off all ties, and that there are more rats in the judicial department than he thought. There is a high probability that Cast Baron is also already on the run, after which the main character says that this cannot be, and then he heads towards the women in the basement, but sees that they seem to be okay. The young lady then approaches one of them and asks how they are doing since she came to help them. And also, there is no one there, so this is their chance to escape. But the girl with a sarcastic smile on her face asks if she really came to help, and isn't she the same girl who was yelling that it should be cleaner there and that they should be looked after better? The young lady replies that she didn't mean to and apologizes because she had to say all this so that he would believe her. The girl then says that when this man lured them into a trap, he also pretended to be doing them a favor by offering them a job. So how do they know she's not up to the same thing? The young lady says they can trust her, after which the girl is surprised, and Ignette says that they should just let them be freed. After all, she won't leave them there, and she also knows how terrible it feels to be left behind. The Duke at this time says that this guy had the key with him, but it is not there. The young lady then looks at him worriedly, but the Duke claims that he searched everywhere but did not find any keys. Ignette asks what they should do, after which the brunette says that they will have to leave them there, but the girl says that under no circumstances. After which she understands that there must be an exit and that this grate needs to be opened. At this time, the guy asks if the lady will fulfill his wish if he opens the grate. The main character asks if he knows how, but the brunette only tells her to promise first. After which, Ignette promises him and tells him to open the grate. The guy then smiles, after which he says he will do it without question. He picks up the sword and swings it, and the bars fall to the floor. Ignette wonders if he simply chopped the metal door. The lady with red hair is surprised by this and then leaves the cage. And she also thanks them, after which someone screams for them to leave quickly, and the girls thank her. Well, the main character thinks that they should wait because she is sure that they saved everyone. But she doesn't know where Arbel is, and maybe she was never there. But then the main character thinks where she is. At this time, the Duke turns to the young lady and tells her to go with him. The girl asks where he's going, then tells him to wait. Arbel is with the man at the time. He strokes her hair and speaks of the girl as his darling doll, but the young lady only tries to hit him, after which he says that again she does not want to obey, and she understands that she is powerless. But she could have become some other man's toy, but he saved her. After which the guy says that she cannot even imagine what an unfortunate fate awaited her. He also asks if she knows that he left some of her beautiful hairs on the manager's body, so if she runs away, she will have to spend the rest of her life running away from punishment for being plunged into eternal sleep. He also asks if the lady is interested in why he is saying all this. Well, she doesn't understand a word anyway. At that very moment, someone puts a sword to his throat and says that at least he understood everything, after which he thanks him for his confession. The man tells the guy to let him go and asks who he thinks he is, but the Duke just throws him on the floor. At this time, the main character turns to Lady Arbel and claims that they came to take her away. A little while later, they are already heading through the forest, and the Duke says that he had a knife and a red liquid with him. This is most likely the one with which he put the manager into a summer sleep, so this should be more than enough. The main character thanks Hertz, but asks how he knew where Abel was. He replies that he can't tell her and asks her not to ask questions. The girl agrees to this and then turns to Abel and asks if she will tell her what happened. The girl replies that she told her husband that she would not divorce him, so he sent her there, so she could deal with the consequences for her brother. And the main character wonders why she refused the expense. Well, the woman replies that while she is Cast's legal wife, in the event of his disappearance, all of his assets would come under her control, and if they had divorced, this wouldn't have happened. As far as her case was concerned, she would have undoubtedly run away with Cain, but thoughts of those unfortunate girls locked up wouldn't leave her head. Of course, money would never compensate for the time they spent there and the pain they experienced. Well, she hoped that the money would help somehow. The main character realizes that for a moment she thought Abel had given up, but now she realized that to save another person, she would muster up the courage and do anything. The girl then said that of course she wanted to repay Lady Ignette. The main character realizes that perhaps in her past life, there was no nymph's refuge because Abel destroyed it at the cost of her life, and she was left only to guess. A short time later, the young lady returns, and the knight who had assumed the role of coachman says that the lady has returned. Ignette replies that yes and thanks him for waiting, after which she also says to take them to her store because Abel needs to be taken to Cain. Well, then someone else turns to the young lady, and he asks if she could take them with her. It turns out they're the girls in the cages. One of them says that the lady has already saved them and they understand that they are asking too much. Well, they themselves won't be able to get to the city, and even if they could, they would be immediately driven back as soon as they found out who they were. The main character understands that now she will not be able to hire them all, and the only place where they will be safe. A little while later, someone says that they will take good care of their guests, so that Her Highness should not be afraid. The girl thanks Polkins, but the man says that it's nothing and that he is partly responsible for it, what these poor girls had to go through, so this is the least he can do for them. The Duke says all they have to do is find out where Cast Baron has fled. The young lady realizes she knows nothing of this man's whereabouts, and that he poisoned her before she could find out where he had fled. At that very moment, Isaac bursts into the room and cries out to Her Highness that Calvin found Castor Baron. The girl then asks how he did it, and the guy replies that you can find out in character. You won't find out anywhere. Calvin then says he spent the entire night scouring the neighbourhood where the witness who saw Cast Baron lives. Well, there's one problem, and that's the place. A little while later, someone says they'll bring him right away, but for now, the lady should wait there. The main character asks if Hertz is really ready to stay, since he already helped her last night, and now this. The guy replies that his desires are at stake, so he has something to gain and the girl shouldn't worry about him. The main character thinks about this desire and says that she can't even imagine what she can do for him. But the guy will say that who knows, maybe one day she will really help him. He also asks if she herself will be okay, and what the likelihood was that the Baron would be hiding. At that moment, an officer bursts into the room and asks if they really know where the Baron is. The girl replies that yes, and that is true, but the guy must have been very tired while he was running there, so let him sit down and rest. After which, the girl claims that Cast is hiding in the house of the former police chief.